Good morning. Hi. Hello. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, August 21st. It's 11:47 a.m. and I am going to dedicate most of today's show to an issue that's kind of sort of tangentially related to the stuff we have been covering. I have been covering the reckless bin, Lego, heist, y'all know. And so on the surface, the story we're covering today doesn't really have much to do with the Bricks and Minifigs saga. But you know what? The more I started looking into it, it started looking like patterns, patterns, patterns. I mean, we'll get into it today. But before we get into the Provo Canyon thing, I did want to give y'all an update on the Bricks and Minifigs thing. I don't know if other folks caught this or will be covering it. So I do want to do this little Bricks and Minifigs update real quick, just in case nobody else talks about it. So we stay in a timely fashion. I did go ahead and just take screenshots of it and put it on my web. So they actually updated their Instagram stories yesterday. So I took these pictures at 8:30 p.m. They had been posted 8 hours prior. My time, that's Eastern time. They had been posted 8 hours prior. And so that would be putting like midday yesterday this was posted, and that would have been um the day after, pretty much like 24 hours or more after they had announced that they reached a settlement with Brian Mansell. So it's like a bunch. It's like a bunch of pages on their Instagram stories, but I thought we could read them here together. It says, an update from Bricks and Minifigs. We are happy to share that Bam and the Mansell family have reached an amicable resolution and Brian has been made whole. The mediation process allowed both parties to share information and develop a better understanding of what happened. We apologize to the Mansells for their pain and suffering caused by the situation. We're sorry for the concern and loss of confidence this situation has caused among some customers, owners, and communities who care about Bricks and Minifigs. Swipe to see how we're taking additional action. So even though this does kind of look similar to the press statement, some of this stuff looks like maybe a little bit slightly reworded. Trust is earned through actions is the title of this next one. Um, we know people have been concerned, frustrated, and disappointed by some things they've seen and heard in the social media world about Bricks and Minifigs. Well, girl, they might have seen it on the Pacer docket. Anyway, they're only worried about social media world, I guess. It has raised broader questions about trust, accountability, communication, and how we protect the values that make Bricks and Minifigs special. See how this is like different wording. We understand trust is earned through actions, not just words. People want to know we understand why they have raised concerns, that what we've learned, and how we are improving as a result. And look, they have these little numbered at the bottom. That's slide 1. Now we move to slide 2. Now this is news to me. Board leadership expansion. It says we've identified several areas to improve. We've already begun making meaningful changes, including the following. We're expanding our board of directors to include outside perspectives and a franchisee voice. I swear, if they're about to announce Reckless Ben is on the board of Bricks and Minifigs now, I am going to laugh. We're expanding our board of directors to include outside perspectives and a franchisee voice because we believe our growing brand benefits from broader experience, stronger oversight, and constructive input. The legal process doesn't change our responsibility to listen, learn, and improve. Period. Well, where was this ever before? Okay, like literally ever. Now, I'm very curious as to what this means, outside perspectives, because from what I understand, there's already an outside perspective on the board through this fractional leader, the Darren Hicks. Already thought he was already an outside voice, but I don't know if that means they're going to be putting somebody else on the board from outside. What does this mean? Outside perspectives. Anyway, next slide, vetting with higher standards. Okay, so yeah, right, again. So we've heard this before, pretty much some different version or iteration of everything ever is Crystal Law's fault or Brian Mansell's or Ben's fault. Nothing at all whatsoever is ever bricks and minifigs fault. So that's what this slide is basically saying, in my opinion, from my understanding of it. Vetting with higher standards, we will make sure each store owner embodies bricks and minifigs' 5 core values. Creative, I don't know how creative is a core value. I always say that every time I read this. Creative, inclusive, collaborative, clean, service oriented. These value, watch them start saying no tattoos allowed, no purple hair. These values, coupled with more stringent qualifications, higher financial requirements, that shall already require $500,000. Higher financial requirements. So they're going to make it harder to open a brick and a minifig. Okay, got it. Um, and firm internal expectations around business acumen and professionalism. Bitch, I don't know. It better be way higher than the professionalism and business acumen running around the bricks and the minifigs corporate headquarters, because that will not do. That simply will not do. Okay. Will help us welcome the most qualified franchisees to our brand. Here's the situation. If they start making it a requirement to have a lot of business acumen and experience running businesses, if they start making it a requirement, um, to have all of that, they're going to have a very difficult time recruiting franchisees. Why? Because people with a whole bunch of business acumen are going to go start their own business without any assistance from bricks and minifigs. Like, nobody needs to join at this point a company with a bad public reputation. Many people never heard of bricks and minifigs before and now only know of bricks and minifigs because of this. It's almost like you have to take a reputational hit. You're starting in the hole reputationally. You're starting in the hole reputationally if you open a bricks and minifigs right now. So if they're going to make it even more difficult, they're going to gatekeep even higher, which perhaps that's what they should do. I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with them, but it does fly, I believe, in the face of um their second core value, inclusive, for one, their core value being inclusive. 20% of their core values is inclusive, but now they're about to keep out people with, that don't have as much finances, aren't as qualified, so-called qualified, expectations around business, if you never ran a business before. So it's not really that inclusive. Look, I'm not saying that they should necessarily just let any and everybody be a bricks and minifig store owner. I do think that it's a huge responsibility, and there should be some level of like, you're going to make sure that they're going to actually be able to be successful. Like, bricks and minifigs has to run some sort of due diligence to make sure that people are going to be able to be successful. Otherwise, I think they're failing in their duty. But I don't know. This just seems so silly to me. Like, they're still kind of blaming, like, why weren't you doing all this before? So what are you trying to say? Like, this is going to keep consignment deals from ever happening again, or what? Like, I don't really even understand what exactly they're trying to say, but it does kind of seem like they're like, look, another thing that wasn't our fault, but we had too much faith in these unsophisticated business people, but now we're going to vet them. Okay, well, if you're saying that that needs to be done, why in the hell wasn't that being done already? Anyway, the next slide is standardized systems and offboarding processes. We now require all franchisees to use a standardized trade and inventory management system to enhance consistency around inventory purchasing, trade-ins, and store inventory practice. This is designed to make the customer trade experience more transparent. More transparent? What? Why would, I mean, that's great. That's probably necessary, but there was the transparency of the customer trade experience was never the problem. It was organization, that was a problem, um, documentation, proof, stuff like that is really, you know, what the problem is here. Not there is a transparency issue, I guess, but I feel like these 2 parts of the 2 parts of the sentence don't design it. This is okay, so we're gonna put a system in place. That does seem fine. Everything that comes in, you gotta put it in the system. I kind of thought they were already doing that, but they got a different one. I don't really know what that's gonna help either, truly. What that could have helped if that was in place, although I do think it is probably for the best to put some more streamlined and uniform inventory tracking system in place. It says we're also strengthening our franchisee offboarding process so we can handle store transitions and exits with optimal consistency and professionalism. So you're not going to have Brandon Best come in and demand the keys anymore. Good. That's probably for the best. Increased support and membership. We recently hired more experienced field coaches and field coach managers. Well, we heard that this was already in place for like almost a year before any of this happened. So this isn't really new or a response to the Regless Ben thing. Certainly not a response to this videos coming out because this was already going on. People already, Bricks and Minifigs franchise owners already had field coach officers or whatever, managers or whatever already. Like that was already going on before the videos came out and went viral and all that. Anyway, it says this increases store level visibility with more consistent insight into store operations and more direct support for franchise owners. Okay. So my translation of this allows Bricks and Minifigs to be all up in your damn business and surveil you all day long. And you have a handler watching over you and it's called for your benefit, but really it's just going to allow corporate to have even more insight. Look, visibility into what? Into what corporate's doing? Hell no, you're not in their office. They're in your store. So corporate under the the franchise agreement and or the operating agreement already has the right to kind of send someone in to kind of watch over you, to do like site visits or whatever. This is being kind of pushed out in this PR, I don't know, campaign as something that's supposed to help store owners. And it may help store owners, individually owned and operated store owners a little bit. I think it's more likely that it's going to give corporate more feet on the ground to be able to more quickly and more excessively document every single thing that these poor franchise owners are out here doing and allow them to then be able to be sitting on even more of a stack of stuff to use against franchisees when they come in to steal, rescue their stores. It sounds like more control. It sounds like surveillance, and it sounds like not independently owned and operated. It sounds like, the more I look at this, the more this is kind of reminding me of like a mutated MLM, like a multi-level marketing, where I said mutated, okay, but hear me out. One of those multi-level marketing direct sales type companies that I remember was that y'all remember that legging brand, leggings, LuLaRoe, and there was a lot of collectors mindset and collector economy with that MLM, because the way that the sales would work, at least for a time, the sellers who were being called independent business owners, which, girl, okay. So they would purchase inventory, let's say 100 leggings, and those 100 leggings would show up to their house. When the sellers opened up the boxes, that was their first time seeing or knowing what was in the box of leggings. It was a total mystery. So sometimes they would get certain ones that were very desirable and people wanted to actually buy. And so they would be able to sell them, and they would do these live streams and would sell it. But the whole time, these poor ladies, they're calling themselves small business owners and entrepreneurs. And it's like, girl, you are getting a box of leggings, not Legos. You're getting a box of leggings and having to sell them for these people and then sending money back to them. That's not a small business. That's something else, like, in my opinion. So this kind of is starting not to remind me quite exactly of that, but it's like, well, damn, they don't control their bank accounts. They don't control their leases. They don't control their social media accounts. They don't control their email accounts. They don't control where they source their product. They don't control the POS system they use. They don't control the uniforms that people wear in the store. I mean, to some extent, they a little bit do. They don't control really their hours of operation or being open. So like, any one of these things is not enough to say, oh, it's not independently owned and operated. But when you start to look at it all together, it's like, what's the difference between this and just managing a store, but you have to have all of this extra work and extra risk on you? Like, the finances really don't seem to work out for the most part. Like, sure, there's probably some stores that are successful by the grace of God, amen. But aren't these people just kind of buying themselves a job? I don't know. I don't know. It just now they're about to be putting more people in here and saying it's for your own good. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. See these increased support and mentorship? What do you think happens if the store owner doesn't want that mentor? You think they're allowed to say no? You think they're allowed to say, "No, I'm good. I don't really need a mentor. Like, I got this. Thanks." You think they're allowed to? Probably not. It kind of seems like this. Yeah. Yeah. It feels exactly like this. You put it in such a succinct way. Enzyme BP said, BAM shifts the risk and liability. Then, when stuff unwinds, they take back the assets at a discount and then sell it again. It feels like that. I don't know. I'm not like extremely business minded or business savvy. Okay. So, like, don't listen to me. I don't know. I mean, we really don't know. Don't take anything I'm saying over here as if it's like, a fact or anything. But it kind of sort of is starting to feel like this. It's like they kind of offload liability, risk, and other stuff too, right? Like there's only so many leases one guy can sign. There's only so, you got to start putting bodies in the way. And it's like, golly, now we know they learned how to put goofy cart number 2, goofy cart number 3, goofy cart number bricks and minifigs number 1, bricks and minifigs number 1444, bricks and minifigs number 1237, bricks and mini. I mean, it kind of feels like in their mind, they really kind of think they own those stores too. Like those are their assets. Even if somebody else has their little silly little name on the lease or whatever. Ha ha hee, that's so cute. They own everything in their mind. I think. And at any moment, they're going to use a reason to come and snatch it back. Penbrick said 100% buying a job. It's a badly run chain with all the financial risk on the individual store managers. Mentor or corporate spy, Randy said. Now, I'm not saying it's an MLM. I'm really not, but it's just starting to kind of give me that feeling of like, are these really store owners? I definitely know they got the risk. I definitely know that they put all their many times life savings and a lot of their, 401ks and this and that in it. I do know that they do take risk, but like, do they really have autonomy or authority or control over very much? Anyway, it says we increase. Okay. We already read that. Okay. We've also engaged a group of veteran store owners. I'm assuming these are corporate store owners to build a franchisee-led development program. Oh, they're trying to counterbalance and counteract the union. That's what this looks like to me. We've engaged a group of veteran store owners to build a franchisee-led development program so owners have clearer expectations, stronger support, and better tools to operate. Okay, so now you have to be in more groups, you have to have more oversight, and it's going to be this is starting to definitely like line up like a little pyramid, huh? Now they're going to have mentors, they're going to be checking in on you and surveilling you. Now you're also going to have to listen to these dipshit veterans, and all of they're going to have them in your business telling you what in the hell to do. So again, I just reiterate, I mean, is it really independently owned and operated? Next steps, they say, going forward, we're committed to leading with empathy first. Oh yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. And then accountability. I'll really believe that one when I see it. And clarifying facts second. So yeah. For this time, you did no empathy, you did no accountability, and you never clarified any facts because you just put out a bunch of contradictive bullshit that didn't even agree with itself. So I think y'all are lying. I don't even think you can really say what y'all did was facts. So you didn't do any of the three. We know trust isn't rebuilt by just asking people to move on. Damn sure ain't. That's true. It's rebuilt by listening, learning, changing, and showing through consistent action that the system is stronger than it was before. Well, I mean, it needs to be a lot stronger than it was before. Thank you for caring enough to speak up, ask hard questions, and hold this brand to a high standard. We hear you, and we're committed to earning and protecting your trust going forward. Okay, well, I'll believe it when I see it. You can start by putting the money in Brian Mansell's bank account because it don't look like y'all had done that yet, at least as of last night. Um, so yeah, isn't that cute? Isn't that interesting? Okay, hold on. So now I want to move on to the second and the main topic of today's video. It looks like Provo Canyon School is threatening to sue Sheldon and Ben. Okay, this comes from a Salt Lake Tribune article that was published a few days ago. And I did have Sheldon on my channel recently. I think it was less than in the past week. I had him on my channel and we talked about this video and all of that. We reacted to it and they had gone undercover at Provo Canyon School. So Ben went undercover as a student and Sheldon went undercover as a certified mental health technician. And calamity ensued. The title of the article is YouTuber Reckless Ben went undercover at Provo Canyon School. The program is now weighing action against him. The 30-year-old YouTuber posed as a teenager while a friend got a job at the Utah Youth Treatment Program. Their hidden camera videos captured staff training and discussions of physical restraints. And there's a picture of them. The title of his video was I went undercover in a troubled teen facility. It says YouTuber Reckless Ben, or Ben Schneider rather, is 30 years old. But last winter, he posed as a teenager and convinced Provo Canyon School to admit him as a student. In a new video posted to his Reckless Ben channel, he says he stayed at the Utah Teen Treatment Program for 2 days before jumping a fence and running away. Schneider and his friend Sheldon Norcross both brought small video cameras into the Utah program. Well, that's not true. Sheldon brought the cameras into the program and Ben got the camera from Sheldon. So almost Salt Lake Tribune. Schneider posed as a student while Sheldon was hired as a mental health technician despite having a criminal history that would prevent him from passing a background check to work with young people. So Sheldon said technically, like, because his criminal history was expunged, Provo Canyon should actually not have been able to deny him working there. And if he would have appealed it and lost, like, he could have actually like sued Provo Canyon and won or something. So I guess I'll just say, like, it does seem like it's a little bit more complicated than just straight up like, oh yeah, he had a crime in his past and he was convicted of it and now he shouldn't work around kids. Like, it's a little more complex than that, but I just wanted to put that there. He worked at Provo Canyon School for a month and described the program in his own YouTube video as actually hell on earth and disgusting. In recent months, state licensors have revoked licenses for both Provo Canyon School campuses, and the campuses are in Springville and Provo. I think it's like Orem specifically, finding that staff used abusive discipline, unnecessary restraints, and humiliated kids. But the owner of Provo Canyon School, a company by the name of Universal Health Services, has appealed the decision to close the school down and revoke their licenses. And it is possible the facilities could reopen if they prevail on their appeal. The company said in its statement that it is evaluating any appropriate action against Ben Schneider based on the facts and applicable law. Uh-oh. He has already drawn attention in Utah through viral videos targeting bricks and minifigs, a Utah-based Lego resale company, over disputed valuable Lego collection. His confrontations with the company and police have since led to criminal charges and lawsuits. In his hour-long YouTube video, which was posted about, now 6 days ago, it was on Saturday, it came out, there are clips in the video that Sheldon secretly captured of the training he got after he was hired. The clips show staff telling new employees that they hold teenagers in physical restraints 250 to 300 times a month. One staffer, oh my God. One staffer reminisced about a previous era at Provo Canyon School where we were effing slamming kids all over the place. Oh my God. He really did say that. And I got some news articles. Spoiler alert for today's spoiler alert for today's video. I went back in the archive and I have some documents and some news articles specifically from the 70s, from the 80s that show how this school has been treating kids forever, for since like it first opened. It's always been controversial. It's always been controversial. So I do have some old articles to pull up after we get into this news here. Sheldon recorded Provo Canyon staff giving answers to applicants to pass a required exam. And it was like a CPR exam. It was something like chest compressions or something. It's crazy. First responder training. As well as several moments where trainers emphasized that Provo Canyon School is heavy in the media. They recited Salt Lake Tribune headlines about other Utah teen treatment programs before telling new staff not to talk to reporters. And Sheldon and Ben's videos showed staff made repeated negative comments about Paris Hilton, who actually attended Provo Canyon School in the 90s, and she alleges that she was abused there. She's advocated for the shutdown of the program in recent years. She wrote Tuesday, a few days ago, on Instagram that Ben Schneider's look inside Provo Canyon was so disturbing. She said she was blown away by his efforts to show what was happening inside the school. She said, Paris Hilton says, quote, hearing the way staff talk about me only fuels me to keep shining a light on the abuse and negligence that happens far too often in this industry. Universal Health Services purchased Provo Canyon School in 2000. They say in a statement they also put out on Tuesday, it was aware of the video and the claims in it. It says, quote, the video presents, okay, this is what the school's quoted response to Ben and Sheldon's videos was, quote, the video presents a highly edited narrative that includes comments taken out of context. Girl, I don't know how you could possibly take out of context. We were effing slamming kids all over the place. Excuse me, I mean lovely slamming. How could that possibly be taken out of context? What context could fix that? Anyway, the video presents a highly edited narrative. This is what they say, the owners of Provo Canyon School. That includes comments taken out of context, opinion, and conjecture. It does not provide a complete or accurate picture of the circumstances described. The company said isolated comments or claims without full context shouldn't be used to characterize the care provided to all patients or the practices of the entire organization. They say, quote, Provo Canyon School operates with a highly regulated behavioral health care environment, within. Provo Canyon School operates within a highly regulated behavioral health care environment and remains committed to patient safety, appropriate clinical care, and accountability. The company confirmed that Norcross worked at Provo Canyon School during a, quote, probationary period, but they say he didn't work independently with clients. It's interesting they call them clients instead of students, huh? Isn't that interesting? Now, it's going to become much more interesting once y'all see all the stuff that I found about this place. They say that Sheldon did actually pass the initial criminal background check, but when Utah did its own background check weeks later and they said he was not eligible to work with young people, proper steps were followed. But they said Norcross quit his job before they could fire him. They claim that Provo Canyon School staff performed hundreds of physical restraints monthly. They said that claim was not accurate, but the staff said that. The Provo Canyon School staff is the one that said we be doing 250 to 300 restraints a month. The school's officials did not comment specifically, or not the school's officials, but like the owner of the school's officials did not comment specifically on Ben posing as a teenager and being admitted to the school. His video shows that he hired an actor to play his father, who convinced a therapist to vouch for him to go to Provo Canyon School because he said he was concerned his son was gay. Schneider said Provo Canyon School accepted him with the diagnosis. It's true. He didn't get diagnosed with anything, like from what was shown in the video. UHS has shown it is willing to take content creators to court. In early 2024, the company sued filmmaker and former YouTuber Rob Bliss, former YouTuber, after he similarly was hired at Provo Canyon School and tried to sneak in a camera. That federal lawsuit alleged that staff discovered that this other content creator that tried to expose the school in 2024, they found out he was a content creator, and then he quickly quit the job. The company sued to stop him from sharing the footage or making content based on what he recorded within the program. He initially fought the lawsuit, but eventually agreed to a permanent injunction and agreed to give up his footage and not publish anything that he recorded at the school. Okay, that was it. So there was this whole other lawsuit that was filed. Thank you, Raising Me, for the jewels. Thank you to Veronica Fever for the $4.99. Ammon has never met empathy or accountability. I mean, seriously. Thanks so much to Veronica again for the $9.99. Fun fact, here in Oregon, chemical and mechanical restraints are illegal. Oh, and the restraints are holds that they taught them. Those are only to be used as a last resort, with de-escalation used first. I don't think there's anything wrong with training the teachers, especially in like these schools, to be able to stop somebody, even if it's a student, from harming or hurting other people. I don't think it's wrong for them to have been taught the restraints. What I think is wrong is, like you're saying, like not using it as a last resort, like going directly to that. Thank you to Marrakesh for the makeup brush jewels and to Els the Elder. So I actually got a hold of a few of the lawsuits that have been filed against Provo Canyon over the years, and I wanted to read maybe one or two of them. Now, I do want to say these lawsuits were dismissed. I don't know why. I didn't look through the case files too closely. They were dismissed. So none of these claims were ever actually adjudicated in court to my knowledge. But I do just want to give a little bit of a background by way of court filings that have been filed. And then after that, I'm going to go to the newspaper archives that I had found. I'm just going to find some of those lawsuits right now. Just give me a moment. Okay. Now, this one is titled Aaron Ross versus Universal Health Services, Provo Canyon School. This is interesting too, and I wonder if Sheldon will watch this video. I hope he does at least see this part, because the guy who was doing that training, his name was Justin. You could see it on the CPR training receipt that or certificate or whatever that Sheldon got. Justin Ualey. I believe he's the same one that was saying he was there when Paris Hilton was there. And that girl wasn't never naked in my school, or whatever he said. He got named by name and sued by name in this lawsuit from 2021. So the school got sued, Provo Canyon School, Justin Ualey, Wendy Turnbow, and Lorna Hall. Now, these are all accusations, allegations. These claims have not been proven in court. There are two sides to every story, but very, very shocking allegations are made in this complaint. Nature of the action, it says this action arises from the continuous and unrelenting physical, emotional, and psychological torture, abuse, forced seclusion, and drug-induced sedation endured by Aaron Ross, the plaintiff here. He was a student at the Provo Canyon School between May of 2001 and April of 2003. School administrators and staff, acting under color of state law, caused this plaintiff to suffer and be subjected to cruel and unusual punishment, anti therapeutic and inhumane treatment, denial of due process of law, and violation of his right to free speech. As set forth below, defendant's conduct violated plaintiff, the person who's suing, rights guaranteed under the Constitution. It was battery, assault, false imprisonment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, loss of parental consortium, negligence, civil conspiracy. A direct result of this was Provo Canyon and them violated plaintiff's constitutional rights, and he is owed money damages. He suffered physical and psychological injury, trauma, extreme emotional distress, and PTSD. This court has jurisdiction. Okay, the parties. He was a minor during the entire time of the SUL misconduct. So it was like 2001 to 2003. So he would have been young, definitely. Yeah, he would probably been like 16 or 15. The defendant is located in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. Interesting. $11.37 billion $11 billion in revenue in 2019. $11 billion. I repeat, Provo Canyon's owner, Universal Health Services, generated $11.37 billion in revenue in 2019. They have 334 behavioral inpatient centers or facilities and 39 outpatients. 11 billion in 2019. I bet you after COVID, it skyrocketed. Provo Canyon School is an intensive psychiatric youth residential treatment facility located in Utah, founded in 1971. August 2000, it was purchased by Universal, or Universal purchased Provo, because remember, it was started in the 70s, but then it got bought. Okay. All-time relevant, the plaintiff, Justin Uali, who I believed was one of Sheldon's trainers at the Provo Canyon School. He still works there. During the period of time in which the childhood harassment and abuse took place, he was a staff member or counselor who supervised the day, and on occasion night shift, and was employed by both Universal and Provo. At all times here, Uale, that's Justin, was an employee, agent, or servant of the defendants and Provo and was under their complete control or active supervision. There was a therapist there, Wendy Turnbow. And then there was also Lorna Hall, another defendant that got sued. Now, again, this lawsuit was dropped, dismissed. I didn't really read through the whole procedural history. I just wanted to see some of the types of the allegations they were making. Okay, and then he gives a background. The troubled teen industry, and he puts troubled teen in quotes. Every year, thousands of children from every state in the union are sent against their will, often handcuffed, in the middle of the night by armed strangers known as transporters to private facilities to purportedly be treated for behavioral problems, mental illness, or addiction issues. Due to inconsistencies in the definition of what a therapeutic boarding school is. Okay, remember that part, because that's going to come up in an article we're going to read in a little while. Due to inconsistencies in the definition of what a therapeutic boarding school is, and lack of regulatory oversight, the exact numbers of student residents and centers are not known, but it is estimated there are over 50,000 children kept in approximately 1,500 treatment centers around the United States, collectively known as the troubled teen industry. They're labeled as boot camps, behavior modification facilities, wilderness therapy, and gay conversion therapy. They sell themselves to parents, therapists, and state judicial agencies. A lot of these kids get sent here by the state, by the way. This ain't just rich Paris Hilton types. This isn't just people whose parents can afford it. It's people whose parents never ever could. People who have already been taken away from their parents. People whose parents are having their own problems and off somewhere. Um so judges will often also sentence people there, like kids there. And these kids are effectively getting trafficked to these schools. They undergo a myriad of maltreatment, including physical, verbal, and S abuse, chemical sedation, isolation, vigorous labor, and even reckless Ben. For the first like day, 24 hours or so, he was in complete solitary confinement, completely isolated. He didn't see anyone, talk to anyone for a full day. And that was just on check-in. Like, imagine what they do to the kids who are like acting up. Vigorous labor, remember that because we're going to read an article of what they were making these kids do in the 70s. The use of physical restraints, food, and we did hear Sheldon talk about these two, physical restraints and food and sleep deprivation. So Sheldon said, yeah, they taught him those restraints over and again. Food deprivation. Sheldon said the kids were so hungry they felt like they needed to steal food. Sleep deprivation. Ben did talk about being kept up for 17 hours and then put in a room, and then he couldn't use the bathroom and stuff. And humiliation. Some of the torture they put these kids through, the Geneva Convention has banned as being too extreme even for prisoners of war. This abuse is compounded by their function as total institutions. These are institutions where the students live under the singular administrative authority of the school and have limited contact with the outside world. They are not routinely allowed to leave school property, and they reside there from several weeks to several years. This institutional life is constructed around strict schedules, extensive rules, and the reward/withholding of privileges. Students are constantly under surveillance by staff as well as fellow students, all of whom are required to report any breach of the rules, and they face punishment if they themselves don't snitch. Rule on their friends and the classmates and everybody else. Rules and regulations can also be so extensive that it may be difficult to avoid breaking them. Right, like it's so hard to even follow these rules. Anybody would break them, especially as some rules are arbitrary and inconsistently applied depending on interpersonal staff-student dynamics. So the staff will take it out on certain students they don't like or the ones they do like, and they won't, put them in it. But listen how crazy this is, y'all. The origins of the troubled teen industry can be traced back decades to an organization called Synanon. Synanon, all one word, that ostensibly started as a substance abuse program in the 50s. This goes back to 1958 at least. Now, you know what else was going on in 1958? The predecessor to the MK Ultra program. And this is like not a conspiracy theory, y'all. Go look it up on the CIA files. Like MK Ultra was to control the mind. MK Ultra was to get inside of the mind and control it. They used all kinds of tactics: sleep deprivation, torture, isolation, extreme cold exposure, drugs was a big one, LSD. But there were prior programs to MK Ultra, like one was called Project Artichoke. I think one was called Bluebird, and they were also mind control experiment programs. They predated MK Ultra, which started in about exactly, it might have been right around this time, officially. 1953. Project MK Ultra officially started in 1953. Now, 1972 or something like early 70s, it was ordered to stop. But I mean, they stopped it and they just call it something else now, y'all. Please, like, let's wake up. Can we stop pussyfooting around? Anyway, they're obviously using these schools for mind control. And the reason I know this for sure is because this has been going on for about 50 years, maybe up to like 70 years. It's very well known that these schools exist, but they're also very good at training freaks. Not everybody who goes there is a freak, by the way. There's like separate types of people who get put into these schools. Some of them really are already like psychopaths. Like they do have psychopaths as kids that just act freaking crazy and try to kill their siblings and stuff. Like they need to be locked up. There's a very, very small percentage, even yes, kids, but for the most part, that's not what's going on. For the most part, there's all kinds of explanations as to explain why. But then once you get kids in here and they're already troubled in some way, maybe they have, I don't know, had some brain damage from sports or drugs or whatever. Maybe they had some kids are born with like fetal alcohol syndrome. There's people are born with stuff. People also become traumatized. Their parents don't know how to deal with it. Sometimes these parents have no idea where they're sending their kids to, but the kids think their parents do. So now they distrust the parents. I mean, there's literally like a unlimited, eternal list of different combinations of what can happen to somebody in these places. But once they get in there, they're being abused and tortured. And some of these kids are already on the brink anyway. So it creates people who are institutionalized, and it's just exactly like the school to prison pipeline. This is a different type of school to prison pipeline. There's no way that Universal Health Services is getting $11 billion a year and they're not getting government money. I mean, these programs are most likely sanctioned, I'll say. I mean, I'll say it. Yeah, when you go in for weed, but you get introduced to the real hard substances. I mean, that is what happened to Nick Reiner. He had never even heard of heroin. Then it ended up being his drug of choice and he killed his parents. Where did he learn about heroin? His first rehab ever. He met a friend who he was kept being friends with on the outside, and the friend introduced him to it. He had never even heard of it till he was in these schools. Yep, exactly. Rob Reiner's son, Reiner. Anyway, okay, so back to this lawsuit. The origins of the troubled teen industry can be traced back decades. It started 5 years after MK Ultra started. What are the chances? To an organization called Synanon that is ostensibly started as a substance abuse program in 1958. It was founded by a former alcoholic, Charles Diedrich, who claimed to be inspired by AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous, and he wanted to treat addicts. He allegedly coined the maxim, quote, "Today is the first day of the rest of your life." He envisioned Synanon as the start of a new utopian society. And he was soon well on his way. As the group grew popular, some likened it to a cult. It started building their own schools and their own businesses. But the program used various problematic tactics, such as humiliation, isolation, sleep deprivation, and manual labor. And it was discredited in the 70s and the 80s as its violent record was exposed. It is now remembered for an incident in which a member placed a live rattlesnake with the rattle removed in the mailbox of a lawyer who had successfully sued Synanon. They put a snake in the lawyer's mailbox. By the time it officially shut down in 1991, its model had already been widely copied, with dozens of lucrative behavioral therapy programs for troubled youth, charging thousands of dollars a month, emanating from its treatment philosophy. Due to long-standing and ever-increasing concerns regarding abuse and death in certain programs for troubled youth, and following publicity surrounding this book that was published in 2006, okay. Due to this book that was published in 2006, the book was called Help at Any Cost: How the Troubled Teen Industry Cons Parents and Hurts Kids. So due to that book and also just increasing publicity of what these schools were doing to the kids, the United States Government Accountability Office decided they needed to start that's not what it says. They said they issued the first in a series of reports, and the reports began in 2007. This was followed by another report in 2008 addressing selected cases of death. Kids are dying in these schools, y'all. They're calling them schools. I call them child labor camps and child prison camps. That's what I call them: child prisons, child prison camps, and child labor camps. This is what it is. I've always said this. I'm going on 3 years talking about this subject, on and off. This was followed by a report addressing selected cases of death, abuse, and deceptive marketing at these facilities. There was also a third report the next year in 2009 about the facility's use of seclusion and restraints and associated deaths due to the abuse of the same. So the third report had to do with seclusion and restraints, and how deaths were related to the abuse, like overusing, isolation, and restraining kids. Paragraph 29, Utah is the epicenter. Utah is the epicenter of the troubled teen industry. With nearly 100 youth residential treatment centers. This lawsuit, I want to remind you, was from 5 years ago. I feel like it probably skyrocketed. I feel like it probably doubled since then. I feel like it's probably 200. It might be 500, it might be 1,100. It's probably just crawling with these things, because the Affordable Care Act, and what was when was that? 2014 or so. The Affordable Care Act made certain types of youth and adult residential treatment facilities mandatory, such that there is a financial incentive for these freaks and crooks to open like houses that are basically like just in residential areas, but make them treatment centers. So I bet you it's way more than this today. I really feel like it probably is, but at least 100 in Utah alone. Residential treatment centers. That's more than any other state. Okay. It contributes nearly $500 million to the economy of the state of Utah. Always follow the money. Where was it that Reckless Ben had his Google account subpoenaed, search warranted? Where was it? Remember where it was? Medina Dore, the pig wrestler, who illegally and unconstitutionally gained access to Ben's Google accounts. Where was that? Who remembers? Which police department? I'm waiting for somebody to put it in the chat. It's a pop quiz. Which police department does Marina Doorway work for? Yes, thank you, Patty. Yes, Provo. Well, let me just ask you a question. We're going to follow the money. It's just a question, all right? If the troubled teen industry brings in more than $500 million, this would be $500 million into the state of Utah's economy, and United Health Services brings in over $11 billion a year in 2019 in revenues, what are the chances Provo Canyon School, a long-established institution, might be generating a lot of income for the Provo economy? I'm going to ask that again. What are the chances that Provo Canyon School, that charges $1,500 a day to insurance, or about $1,000 a day to self-pay, what are the chances that school is bringing in quite a bit of money and jobs to the Provo economy? So, Marina Dore, I've said this from 2 months ago, I think. Joshua Johnson and Marina Dore act and behave and seem like institutionalized people. They seem like, there's two different tracks you can go if you're abused as a child. You can become an abuser yourself, or you can become hyper empathetic. So sometimes people, when they're hyper empathetic to children and child abuse, you just see them get, Josh and Medina, I would not put it past to them two to have been sent to these behavioral schools. I wouldn't be surprised. And that's why they're so cruel, because it's like, well, it happened to me. Those people that like get hazed at the fraternity, but then they turn into the biggest abuser of the fraternity. They want to haze everybody else. Like that is one way to like respond to instances of abuse. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people would never do that. They're like, I'm never doing that. I know how it feels. I'm never doing that. So I almost wonder, is there some type of connection between the current criminal prosecution against Reckless Ben and the fact they found information indicating he was investigating Provo Canyon School on those hard drives? Or was she just so gung-ho to see what was on the hard drives because she already had her suspicions? I mean, that, in my opinion, is less likely. But this is, hear me out. This is what I feel like could have happened. They get all the information that they search warranted, right? Medina Dore sees, you know, the back end of Ben's YouTube channel. She sees that he's working on Provo Canyon. She has some type of reason, perhaps, this is just a possibility, some reason perhaps to protect Provo Canyon. And so she realizes we got to mess up his credibility. We got to punish him. We got to show him we do things differently here. I don't know, but it feels just shockingly coincidental that we're being told in this lawsuit. Now, I haven't substantiated any of the claims in this lawsuit. Okay, this person specifically says he was abused there and he sued. Now, this lawsuit didn't make it all the way to trial and stuff. But look what he says. Utah is the epicenter of the troubled teen industry with nearly 100 youth residential treatment centers, just the ones for kids, more than any other state, contributing to nearly $500 million to its economy. Considered to be among Utah's worst of the worst of these institutions is Provo Canyon School, one of the state's largest and oldest facilities. This is the one that's been shut down at both campuses now and is threatening to sue Sheldon and Ben. Founded in 1971 in the shadow of Brigham Young University. How many of these kids go straight from there into BYU and then into the CIA because they're fully institutionalized? The premier educational institution of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it currently has approximately, and this was in 2021, 300 male and female residents at 2 campuses. Although privately owned and operated, it receives funds from both state governments and the United States. That'd be the federal government. It was established for the primary purpose of educating teen boys whose problems were so severe that their treatment and education required a restricted therapeutic environment, operating therefore not only as a school, but also as a correctional, detention, and mental health facility as well. Provo has been accused of abuse since its inception and the subject of a series of individual and class action lawsuits throughout the 80s and 90s. These lawsuits alleged everything from verbal, physical, and abuse to the punitive use of solitary confinement and a tactic called the hair dance. We are going to hear about the hair dance in the articles that we read later, in which teens were dragged around by their hair. Other allegations include medical negligence, violation of students' First Amendment rights, invasion of privacy, false imprisonment, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, civil conspiracy, loss of parental consortium. In the case of Milanos versus Williams, this was in 1981, a class action brought against Provo in 1980. The court found Provo was a state actor for the purposes of Section 1983 and issued a preliminary injunction that enjoined. So a court banned Provo Canyon in 1980 from doing 4 specific things. Number 1, opening, reading, monitoring, or censoring students' mail. They could not do this anymore. Number 2, administering polygraph examinations for any purposes whatsoever. Hold on, excuse me. What? They were giving teenagers and children polygraph tests. The court forbid Provo Canyon of placing students in isolation for any reason other than contain a student who was physically violent, and they also banned a court in 1980 from using physical force for any purpose other than to restrain a juvenile who's either physically violent and immediately dangerous to himself or others, or physically resisting institutional rules. In 1986, Charter Behavioral Health Systems once the largest operator of psychiatric hospitals and treatment centers in the entire United States, bought the original Provo campus. It operated for the next 14 years. In 1999, media personality Paris Hilton spent 11 months as a Provo student when she was 17 years old. Around the same time, the charter was facing Medicaid fraud allegations, subsequently paying a $7 million fine, but they didn't admit guilt. Amid media reports of inappropriate treatment and inadequate care at the charter-owned facilities across the country, culminating in its filing bankruptcy in the year 2000, the year after Paris Hilton was there. In August of 2000, Charter sold a dozen properties that included Provo Canyon to that new company, Universal Health Services, which still owns it today. Despite the change in ownership, the abuse and mistreatment at the school continued unabated during the decades that followed, with multiple former students coming forward with stories of being overmedicated, restrained, and punished for minor infractions. Utah's Office of Licensing, which regulates the state's youth residential treatment centers, placed Provo's license on conditional status in 2012 after the staff didn't properly watch students and a boy ran away. Subsequently, they caused a fatal car. Oh, shit. This makes it even more serious that Ben was able to run away so easily like he did. Look, in 2012, the license for the Provo Canyon School was put under conditional status because a student had run away. Not only did he run away, there was a fatal car crash as a result. In 2013, a girl was injured in a restraint. In 2015, after staff on 2 occasions injured students while holding them in restraints, the Provo facility was also in violation for having a seclusion room with a lock on it. This was in 2015. It was in 1980 that they were banned from doing that. The isolation rooms, the solitary confinements, for 1980 they were banned from doing it. In 2015, they were still doing it. Jesus. Between 2015 and 2020, Utah's Office of Licensing conducted 341 investigations at Provo's 4 campuses, substantiating 27 violations. Between January 2012 and September 2019, police responded to the Springville campus 239 times to reports that included 43 assaults, 20 sex offenses, and 1 S assault. Between 2012 and 2019, police also responded to Provo's Provo campus 182 times to reports that included 28 assaults, 26 S offenses, 24 S assaults, and 11 abuse of child incidences. In October 2020, a public protest was held outside Provo led by Paris Hilton, who had recently publicized the pervasive physical, emotional, and mental abuse she suffered there. In a response, the defendant, Universal, issued a statement that it could not comment on operations and patient experiences before its purchase of Provo. So they're like, look, that all happened before we got there. We got there in 2000. The Utah State Legislature subsequently held hearings in February 2021 regarding increased oversight for facilities like Provo. Regarding her own experiences, Paris Hilton said, "I was verbally, mentally, and physically abused on a daily basis. I was cut off from the outside world and stripped of all my human rights. I was not allowed to be myself, hold my own opinions, or even speak. Without a diagnosis, I was forced to consume medication that made me feel numb and exhausted. I didn't breathe fresh air or see the sunlight for 11 months. Children were restrained, hit, thrown into walls, strangled, and abused regularly at Provo. I could not report this because all communication with my family was monitored and censored." Remember, they were not allowed to do that, but they still were doing it. That was the worst of the worst. There is no getting out of there. You're sitting on a chair and staring at a wall all day long, getting yelled at or getting hit. I didn't know what they were giving me. I would just feel so tired and numb. Some people in the place were just gone. The lights were on, but nobody was home. It's like a chemical lobotomy. You know, they can't do the ice pick in the eye no more, so they're doing it with drugs. And these kids are getting like lobotomized chemically. Following these hearings, and for the first time in 15 years, Utah's legislature enacted new laws regarding these facilities, including placing limitations on the use of restraints, drugs, isolation rooms, and increasing the number of inspections required. In sum, Provo has remained in business for 50 years, despite multiple lawsuits, a company bankruptcy, state threats to pull its license, and multiple public accounts of abuse spanning decades from those subject to its horrors. As set forth below, okay, so that was the background. So now we're about to hear the specific allegations of this particular plaintiff. As set forth below, plaintiff Aaron Ross's voice is now added to the chorus of sorrow, pain, and anguish that have gone on for too long. So it says factual allegations, and this is his story. Again, this did not go to trial. These claims have not been substantiated, but I think it is important to take it in context of the fuller picture, which we're going to look at. Provo Canyon absolutely disputes all of this for sure. They would say they didn't never do any of this. Okay, so this was only 2 years after Paris Hilton went, by the way. In May of 2001, plaintiff was 13 years of age, living with his parents in Brooklyn. He had a history of Asperger's syndrome. This is a neurodevelopmental disability that affects the ability to effectively interact and communicate with people. Due to a history of domestic behavioral problems centered around his refusal to go to school because he was getting bullied, his parents sought the advice of the Goldberg Center. The Goldberg Center is a consulting organization that claimed to specialize in helping children, teens, and young adults who need to find an appropriate setting to have their needs met. So this kid has autism, 13 years old. He don't want to go to school. He's getting bullied. His parents are like, shit, you got to go to school. Maybe we can reach out to some experts. So they reach out to some experts, and the experts at the Goldberg Center said, oh, we got just the place, Provo Canyon in Utah. But he's from New York. So they're looking kind of for like a autism, like an Asperger's school, like a specifically development, target for developmental and or perhaps learning disability or whatever, like type of school, like a special school or whatever. And so they're like, yeah, like send him to this child prison. That's what you should do. Without interviewing plaintiff, the Goldbergs, so they didn't even interview the kid. They didn't even interview him. He was 13 at the time. The founder and president of the Goldberg Center, Leslie S. Goldberg, referred Provo, or the parents, to Provo in the early morning hours of May 22nd, 2001. He was removed from his home without warning in handcuffs. He was handcuffed. The autistic kid, handcuffed by 3 armed guards. Armed. Upon information and belief, the Goldberg Center got paid $10,000. A kickback for imprisoning this child from Provo Canyon for referring the plaintiff to its facility, paying, in essence, a bounty. This is child slavery, by the way. I don't care that the parents agreed to it. They were lied to. Now, if I see 3 armed guards taking my kid out the house, I might have some questions. Maybe they should have asked them, the Ross parents. Plaintiff was taken to JFK Airport and flown to Salt Lake City, Utah, accompanied by 2 escorts, and then transported to Provo's Orem campus. It would be the last time Aaron Ross would breathe fresh air or feel the sun on his skin for almost 2 years. Upon his arrival to Provo Canyon School, he was strip searched and forced to wear a hospital gown. He was kept isolated for several days and seen by a psychiatrist for no more than 2 minutes before being placed on a daily cocktail of drugs without receiving a diagnosis or a written plan of treatment. That's exactly what Paris Hilton said happened to her 2 years prior under the previous owners. These medications, which caused plaintiff to remain in a state of constant sedation, included Seroquel, ultimately administered at nearly 3 times the maximum daily dose, Depcodyl, Trileptal, and Celexa. He was also subjected to multiple forced injections of Haldol, referred to as booty juice by the staff and students, during which he was physically tied down to a mattress. During the course of his 23 months, literally almost 1 month short of 2 years. In the final 4 months of which were at the Provo campus, he was subjected to undue punishment, if not outright brutality, in no way related to the school's educational program. This included being subjected to verbal, mental, and physical abuse on a daily basis, being disciplined for not folding laundry properly, improperly making his bed, not standing in line properly. He was disciplined for talking, looking around, or taking too long in the shower. Prolonged food and sleep deprivation for days at a time, spending days or weeks in a row sitting at a desk facing the wall except for bathroom breaks and sleeping. Having his mail monitored, censored, and destroyed. His phone calls were monitored by the therapist turned beau, so he could not have a private conversation with his parents, who would interrupt this bitch turned beau, or she would interrupt or abruptly end the talk if she disagreed with anything he said. He spent nearly 2 years locked indoors without being let outside to breathe fresh air or feel the sunlight. He claims that due to the combined effects of the medication he was forced to ingest daily, he would be penalized by moving around, even when directed not to do so, as to avoid falling asleep at his desk. He like had to move, like he was going to fall asleep, and he would move, and he would be penalized. He would be in trouble for not completing his academic assignments. He would get additional penalties for that, but he's like, I couldn't do the academic assignments. They had me drugged up. Due to these continued infractions, he would be placed for days, sometimes weeks, in what they called the observation room. This is what Sheldon and Ben call the gulag. A small, bare, windowless cement room without any furniture, no carpets on the floor. He would only be allowed out to use the bathroom, and at times he slept on a mattress that was brought to the room for his use overnight. It was during the overnight shift of these confinements, which occurred nearly a dozen times, that plaintiff was forced to undress at the direction of the guy that trained Sheldon, Justin. He would make him take his clothes off, that sick freak. If true. If true. I believe it, though. Where is Sheldon Norcross? Is he in here? I am shocked at the allegation. I did not read this before. This guy that trained Sheldon, he's on the video. He's on Sheldon's video and Ben's video. You can hear him talking. He would tell this guy, Aaron, to undress. He was 13, 14 when he was there. He would tell him to my eyes are watering. I can't. I believe it. I believe it, in my opinion. I wasn't there. I don't know, but I believe it. This freak who trained Sheldon, according to the allegations being made in this lawsuit, which never made it to trial, never made it to court, I'm almost certain that this Justin Uale character would absolutely deny that this ever happened. But apparently, allegedly, according to these allegations, and I don't know if this happened. I mean, these are extreme allegations, and I did not know that this was in here, but it is a public document. So I'm going to read it, to some degree. This kid said it was almost a dozen times he was forced to undress at the direction of Justin Uale. Uale would then pull his pants down, sit in a chair that he brought into the room, into the gulag, and direct this little boy to do an act. I can't even read the rest. Y'all can read it if you want to. I can't. It's disgusting. If this child resisted, oh my God, he would be deprived of food and forced to stay awake all night until he submitted to his depraved demands. Such conduct was done for Justin's sick gratification, and plaintiff was being forced to do this under duress. He was going to be denied food. He was a minor. He was not able to give any valid consent to these acts, which were criminal in nature. As a student at Provo, where Justin was employed and worked, plaintiff was under Justin's direct supervision, care, and control. This man was supposed to be taking care of him. That created a special relationship, a fiduciary relationship, and a special care relationship with defendants Universal and Provo. Moreover, as a minor child under the custody, care, and control of defendants Universal and Provo, defendants stood as in loco parentis, like they have guardianship over these kids with respect to this child while he was residing at Provo. They were the responsible parties for him, and they were the employers of Justin. Wow. Justin Uale today is like the lead head guy of training. Sheldon is in here. Where is he? What did he say? Here he is. Sheldon, do you see this? Did you see this? Okay, hold on. Let me scroll up. He was up late playing Pal World. I couldn't even read it. This is Justin Uale. Okay, Sheldon in chat. Sheldon in chat. I'm scrolling. Thank you for the $1.99. This is some Pizzagate level now. Is Justin the guy that was giving y'all the answers to the tests? Yes or no? Was Justin the guy that was saying, I like dogs, I like cats, I got Apple in my office? Mitch said, yeah, I can confirm. I was in Sheldon's stream while he played Power. I didn't know this was going there. It's a 30-page thing. I've been like doing research for this school stuff all morning. I didn't even read this. Oh my God. Plaintiff complained to his therapist about the abuse, and the therapist called him a liar, told him to shut up, and wrote him up for punitive infractions for even bringing it up. He complained to a supervisor, Hall, who also ignored these complaints. He was finally released from Provo on April 23, 2003, and returned home to Brooklyn, where he began to experience multiple mental, emotional, and psychological problems due to the sexual and physical abuse he endured, and which he had not previously suffered from any of that. He was just like, okay, I don't really like to go to school because I'm getting bullied. He came back with all these problems, which I cannot obviously blame him. All of us would come back with problems. He was diagnosed subsequently with PTSD, and he was actually, look, the institutionalization begins at the child level, and then you just get institutionalized. They institutionalized him for 6 months at Bellevue Hospital Center due to the trauma and extreme emotional distress he suffered. By reason of all these defendants' acts, omissions, and duties and violations of them, plaintiff's employment and personal development was and will continue to be adversely affected. Like, he can't hold down a job. He couldn't go to school because he was traumatized. He had to deal with all this stuff. He's lost and will continue to lose wages as a result of the abuse he suffered at the hands of defendants, in an amount to be determined at trial. He suffered economic injury, special consequences as set forth herein. Defendants failed to uphold numerous mandatory duties imposed upon them by state and federal law, by written policies and procedures applicable to them, including a duty to enact policies and procedures that were not in contravention to the Federal Civil Rights Act. Oh my God. Compulsory education laws create a special relationship between students and defendants, Universal and Provo. Students have a constitutional guarantee to a safe, secure, and peaceful school environment. Defendants, Universal and Provo, failed to acknowledge unsafe conditions. They failed to guarantee safe surroundings in an environment in which plaintiff was not free to leave, specifically including but not limited to allowing him, Uale, to take plaintiff for purposes of S activity and allowing him to operate isolated environments incapable of monitoring from the outside, where he S harassed and abused plaintiff, according to allegations in this lawsuit. Provo had a duty to protect him. Defendants Provo and Universal lodged with Uale the color of authority, by which he was able to influence, direct, and abuse this plaintiff and act illegally, unreasonably, and without respect for the person and safety of plaintiff. Defendants Universal and Provo had a duty and failed to adequately train and supervise. Wow. They intended to violate his constitutional rights, and they knew they were doing it, according to the allegations in this lawsuit. He suffered and he will continue to suffer. Yes. Apple. My eyes are watering. This is freaking me out. This was Apple Banana Guy and the Curious George. Oh my God. I don't know why I'm like overcome with emotion. Like that freak still works at the school. The Curious George part was like the most intense moment where the teacher of the class is going, I don't know about y'all, but it feels like somebody's been watching us. And it's like something. And Sheldon thought like he knew that he was caught or something. But really it was just like a monkey. And he picks up this monkey and he goes, this here be George. The guy talks so funny. Yeah, when Sheldon thought his cover was blown. Exactly. Somebody said D. He needs to say D deranged. D for deranged. Justin was Curious George guy. Yep, Justin. Thank you, Edie, for the 199. Y'all, I didn't know it was going there. I thought it was just going to say something about Justin Uwale. I thought it was interesting he was in there, right? Because he's been working there for a long time. He said he worked there when Paris Hilton was there. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Funny his name's mentioned like as a defendant. And I just thought it was because he was probably the head of staff or whatever. No. No, 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 no. Now we understand why he's allergic to cameras. Edie said, I still 100% think that Curious George moment was directed at him. The Curious George thing was probably something he just does he does every time to try to scare off any undercover investigators, Mitch said. Could be. Oh my God. I just imagine like, well, the thing is, somebody had just said, like, what were they telling his parents during all this? Well, he would get on the phone with his parents, but his calls were monitored so closely by the lady that called him a liar. Oh my God. This is so freaking scary. Okay. So that happens to him, right? And then when he gets on the phone with his parents, if he tries to say something that the therapist, Turnbow, doesn't agree with, she'll hang the phone up. That's the only contact that he has with the parents. So if he tries to tell the parents, they hang the phone up and probably he gets thrown back in there to get abused again. Yeah, pen bricks. Yeah. A for abuser, B for bastard, C for criminal, and D for diabolical. I mean, innocent until proven guilty, but I hope that's being investigated. Now, again, y'all, to be clear, these are allegations. I'm sure Justin would deny this ever happened, just as he denied that Paris Hilton was telling the truth. But me personally, in my opinion and belief, based on just like what I've heard about this school, I kind of believe it. I do. But I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't independently verify, and this never made it all the way to trial to be substantiated by a jury. False imprisonment. Oh my God. Loss of parental consortium. Oh, it makes me feel kind of sick. Civil conspiracy. And was the school shut down after this? No, it took 5 more years. So again, I mean, y'all said it. One of y'all said it earlier. Like you go in, you come out worse. He went in because Asperger's. He came out with PTSD, emotional distress, having been abused. If the school helped him, why'd he end up in Bellevue for 6 months? Now, I found this other lawsuit. I'm not going to spend as long on it, but I want to show it to y'all at least. A mother filed saying her child was literally T-word icked to Provo Canyon from out of state. Um, I'll just read some of the caption here. This mom is saying, Mr. Osterman continued to my children to and from facilities and placements. I was tormented mentally, emotionally, and physically by his removal of my oldest son from my grandmother's home and forced into out of state placement at Provo Canyon School in Provo, Utah, for invoking his freedom of speech about the abuse taking place by the department and the group home staff members. So, Provo Canyon is where the kids that are in the group homes that are acting up and talking back. Provo is where you get sent next. Like, I'm going to send you to Provo Canyon if you keep telling on us in your group home. It says Mr. Osterman is, I think, the ex-husband, the child's father, did not inform any legal parties about the actions involving his move out of state. There was no legal counsel or time to fight or for him to stay in Montana. If I wanted to speak back, the baby daddy threatened federal criminal charges if she showed up to the airport to see her son away. But this child, the mother is saying, was trafficked to Provo Canyon School. And yes, Dr. Phil, yes, I don't know if Dr. Phil was involved in Provo Canyon School, but he does have involvement in other teen schools, and he would send certain kids there, not Provo Canyon, different schools. Horrible. Horrible. It said Miss, not Mr., but Osterman was Mr., so that was obviously a typo. Thanks much to the Lord of the Gadflies for the $10 super chat. Thanks for all you do. It'd be a dream to see you read my Title 42 in LA hot sitter versus City of LA. Scientology. Yeah, it's a Scientology suit. Send me the complaint. Thank you for the $10. There's a new release called Resilience. Can't find it on YouTube. It's a fictionalized view of what happened based on real stories from troubled teen industry. Please look it up. It's a hard but worthy watch. But you can find it on YouTube. Okay, I'll look it up. Thank you for the $10 super chat, Cosmic Crystal, and the tip. Thank you, Edie, Sheldon, Veronica. Thank you, Review DS Phil, for the Jules and Superstorm Day. Thank you, Raising Me, for the 250 Jules. Yeah, this is a lot. Okay, this is a lot. So now I want to show y'all some of the newspaper articles and show you some of the history of this school. No, not that. Hold on. Because this ain't new. It's been going on. Okay. Okay. So let's start around 1973. That's where most of the news coverage that I was able to find, like the earliest of the news coverage. So I guess let's start here with this article. I just took a picture of the whole thing so you could see that this is what it did look like. But here's the original ribbon cutting. Okay. Provo Canyon School officers stage official ribbon cutting. During a tour of the Provo Canyon School after the official ribbon cutting ceremony, these men chat about the school's operation and the new facility. From left are Provo City Mayor. Okay, so wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. Remember that Medina Dore question I asked? From the very inception of this school, the local authorities were involved. Okay? At the ribbon cutting ceremony. All right. Now, spoiler alert, BYU is going to be making a very, very soon appearance. Okay? Just spoiler alert. During a tour of the school, after the official ribbon cutting, look at the dude standing around getting ready to abuse some kids or something. These men chat about the school's operation and the new facility. From left, our Provo City mayor. Look at them standing over a bunk bed. That's what that is. They're standing there, they're hovering over a bed of a child. Provo City Mayor Verl Dixon, Dr. Robert Christ, one of the school's founders, Glenn Thomas, Provo Chamber of Commerce president. Okay. The local authorities were always involved with this school from its inception. The mayor is there and the Chamber of Commerce president. Jack Williams, the school director. So let's read the article. Provo Canyon school officers stage official ribbon cutting. After enduring a great many problems, and working hard, the Provo Canyon School held an official ribbon cutting ceremony Thursday. This was published November 30th, 1973. Along with members of the Chamber of Commerce present. Provo Canyon School is a private operation dedicated to helping boys. So it started out as a boys' school who are having a hard time adjusting to their families, their school situations, or with society in general. That was the original founding of the school, okay? It was for boys who are having trouble, having a hard time adjusting to their families, their school situations, or with society in general. So it was a adjustment school. According to Jack Williams, this means boys who are just, quote, not in control. And who better to control them than these elders and high council members? Amen and amen, huh? The school plant is located in Provo, has been completely remodeled from its origin as the Riviera County Country Club. And subsequently, it was the Unidyne manufacturing plant. All that remains to be done inside the facility is for the hardwood gymnasium floor to be laid and the swimming pool to be dug and completed. Girl, they've been advertising that goddamn swimming pool. It ain't been operating never. Idea conceived. All right. How did it start? The idea for the Provo Canyon School was developed several years ago in the height of the MK Ultra program by Dr. Robert Christ and Jack Williams. As Dr. Christ indicated in a short speech Thursday, the plan was to help. Hey, you think Aaron Ross, whose experience we just read about, got help? But they'll call anything help. I'm just going to remind y'all. The school's founder had a plan to help the boys who were not living up to their potentials. Okay. The program involves a concept of continuous change and continuous improvement. The school was opened in Mapleton 2 years ago as the Oak Hills School. Several incidents led to disagreements with the city council there, and the school was asked to leave the area. Hello? Provo Canyon School got kicked out of the first place it tried and had to change its name. The first town that it opened in got kicked out of the town. Look, it was opened in 1971 originally as the Oak Hills School. Several incidents led to disagreements with the city council there, and the school was asked to leave the area. They were run out of freaking town. The first time they ever tried to open the school, they were run out of town. But that didn't stop them. No. Several incidents establishing itself in the current location required battles with Utah County Planning Commission. So that had battles too. And the Board of Adjustment before finally being settled by the 4th District Court. They had to go all the way to court. The school took up residence at the North University Avenue site last March with its new and current name after some modifications were completed. The school's operation is based on a philosophy of the right reward for the right performance. There were 3 phases to the program. Phase 1 involves self-control and includes all boys entering the program. Emphasis here is placed on self-motivated obedience to the rules of the school. So Yeah, self-motivated obedience means or else we're going to punish you. The boys are rated weekly. Oh, good. So they get ratings. Good. And consideration is given to an absence of major incident. Then the boys would move on to phase 2. Stress is self-improvement. The boy has to earn this plateau by previous performance, and once involved in it, has to first identify and then work on specific needs. The objective of this phase is to develop an attitude of doing the right things for the right reasons. Phase 3 encourages self-actualization. In this area, the boy is encouraged to decide what his contribution to the community and what aspects of behavior will lead him to a happy and productive life. There are 52 students enrolled at the Provo Canyon School, a full house. To assist them, there are 27 full-time employees, or roughly 1 staff member for every 2 boys. They live in dormitories, which are equipped with double-decker bunk beds, wall-to-wall carpeting, and a television set. Oh, I'm so sure. Immediately under Mr. Williams in the operation is the school principal, Don Wade. In addition to the teaching staff, there are also several counselors. Okay, so let's read an article from earlier that year. This was the one we just read was from November 1973. This one's from February. Board revokes school permit before the ribbon cutting ceremony. Okay, just to remind y'all, the school opened up in one area called Oak Hills. They got run out of town. They did not be in the town anymore. They moved to Provo Canyon and immediately start running into problems there too. Before they ever even do the ribbon cutting ceremony, the school's license to run was revoked. Board revokes school permit. The Utah County Board of Adjustment Saturday revoked the building permit held by the Provo Canyon School on the grounds that the school differed substantially from other schools as used in the zoning ordinance. They're not a school. And they already were saying it. The adjustment board said, this ain't a school. Whatever you're doing over there is not school. This ain't a school. You applied to be a school. Voting by the board was unanimous of the 4 active members on the board. One board member excused himself. He abstained from hearing the issue. He gave no reason for that action. It is known that he is a resident of the area. Maybe he sent his kid there. R.G. Gardner spoke briefly, giving 3 reasons for the decision, and then made the motion. It was seconded by Q.M. Burdick. The chairman polled the board, and both he and the remaining member, Victor Leifson, voted for the motion. There were 4 reasons given by the board. First, they indicated that the Provo Canyon School was not subject to the controls and regulations of the state of Utah. Ooh. So they already knew. Second, the restraints imposed by the Provo Canyon School on its subjects are greater than by any other schools. They were already being looked at by the local government for restraining these kids in ways that other schools don't do. Third, Provo Canyon School does not promote the objective and characteristic of the neighborhood, giving primacy to residential development and protection of property values. Okay, so we don't want to turn Provo into a youth prison destination. This doesn't help our community at all, is what they were saying. Fourth, the convenience and the use of the school are not related to the needs of the people in this actual town. And fifth, they said they only had 4 reasons, but they gave 5th and 6th here. 5th, the intent to include the Provo Canyon School within the meaning of the zoning ordinance is very remote. 6th, all the named uses of the zone, residential, agriculture, are inconsistent with the use that's actually being proposed here. Only a few people attended the meeting. Okay, so revoked the permit. Now, by the end of the year, they were doing a ribbon cutting. But they've always been able to harness power of the media. February 11th, the Daily Herald writes a report about the school losing its permit. A few days later, February 25th, in the same newspaper, a letter to the editor. Support voiced for Provo Canyon School. We thought we should write and let the Provo people know just what a fine school Provo Canyon School really is. It seems to us there are a few people who have the wrong understanding of just what this school does and can do for all boys. Sometime in our lives, don't we all have some kind of trouble or heartache? Can't we understand the needs of others anymore? The boys attending Provo Canyon School have different problems. Our son is one of the boys living at the school, so they like their kid tortured and they want you to be okay with it. He was hit by a semi truck while on his paper route and had been to different hospitals for almost a year before going to Provo Canyon School. Since then, they taught him to walk, to care for his men. Oh God, they can heal the sick and the blind. He couldn't even walk before Provo Canyon, and they taught him to walk. To care for his many needs, the things we take for granted. So basically what I'm hearing is the parents didn't want to take care of their son and they sent him off somewhere because he had care needs. Things we take for granted, like dressing ourselves, walking, talking, he had to learn to do all over again. And he's still learning with their help. They're teaching these boys to be men in our society. Why don't you give Mr. Wilkinson, Dr. Judd, and the staff your support? We do, and maybe, just maybe, someday you'll need their help, and you can send your kids off over there to get abused by Justin Uale or whatever else. Now, this was later in the year, they got their permits and stuff. So they did their open house. The school has been in operation at that location for 9 months. It's designed to help boys who are having problems in public schools, whether academically or socially. So see how it started as this, but now it's like a drug treatment school. It's just any way to get kids inside these walls, and it's to experiment on them and abuse them. I mean, that's what it's for. That's what it's for. Like, people don't leave out of there abused and traumatized incidentally. It's part of the curriculum. It's to break you. It's like the kids that are like very strong-willed and don't want to listen to authority. Guess what? They're never going to want to listen to authority. The kids like me, I never was like a so-called bad kid, but I always had this like, if you are trying to tell me something to do and it's not logical, you can write the off. I'm done. Since 5 years old, I'm asking, but why? Why they do it like that? I need to know why. And so it's to break you. It's to break you. These schools are to break you so that everybody in society has an easier time dealing with you later on. Wholesome lives for boys is the school's goal. Oh, really? That's why y'all are abusing them? Okay. And the teachers and administration strive to help each student become responsible, productive, and well-adjusted. Okay. Anyway, so then 2 years later, the Provo Canyon School had its first graduation. And guess how many now? Remember we heard there was like 250 kids at the no. How many was it there? 54 kids at the school. Guess how many graduated? 4. Provo Canyon School has held its first high school graduation ceremony, according to Don Wade, principal of the residential and educational school. 4 students received their diplomas at an afternoon commencement held at the school. Guest speakers were Dr. Robert Christ, co-founder of the school, Glenn Tuckett. How long after this school was established did it take for us to run into a newspaper article mentioning BYU? That'd be 2. The very first graduation of Provo Canyon School, the very first one ever, the guest speaker was the BYU baseball coach. Do you see how I'm like, wait, like in these really strange tangential ways, this is kind of like circling back to the Reckless Ben story, because I remember there being some other BYU athletics characters in that story. Remember Mark Comer, who was the head of the whatever in the hell, blue, this, that, and the other nonprofit that helps all BYU athletes negotiate their name and image credits, like basically using, BYU athletics to make money is what it looks like to me. Not McComber. That's Art McComber. That's a different person. Children as chattel for a massive paycheck, period. And then when they're athletes, and then after they're not athletes anymore, if you can't control them, then you get a guardianship over them, like Kai McAllister's parents did. Now, we're going to get some more BYU action in just one year more. But not only have these extreme restraints always been a part of this school's history, not only has it always been a very controversial school, but from pretty much inception, it's been very intertwined with BYU. Several students at the school also spoke. General Achievement Awards were presented. Provo Canyon School has approximately 60 students who receive educational and psychological assistance from a staff of about 40 teachers, tutors, counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists. The school's program is designed to help students cope with educational, social, and behavioral problems. So we have another article from that, same year, same time frame. Provo Canyon holds graduation. 4 students received their diplomas. Robert Christ, co-founder, spoke. And Brigham Young University baseball coach Glenn Tuckett. Several students also spoke, and awards were presented. The school's program is designed to help students cope with educational, social, and behavioral problems. Okay, the very next year, 1976, chief therapist named at Provo Canyon School. Gerald Barton of Orem, Utah, has been appointed chief therapist at the Provo Canyon School. Prior to his appointment, he served as an instructor in the Child Development and Family Relationships Department at BYU. Okay, so he's a BYU professor, and then he went to be the head of therapy at the Child Abuse School. Now, I'm not going to spend too long harping on the overrepresentation of Mormons in the CIA and the FBI. I'm not going to harp too long on it. But if you were the CIA and you were still running MK Ultra under a different name and you're trying to control children's minds, to make them super soldiers and to get them in your stupid, whatever you need them to do under your control, it would be nice to take somebody who's been a professor, who has all of this, connection here, and also would probably make a really good marketing point for the locals. Look, he was at BYU. He was in the family, whatever in the hell, blah, blah, blah department. So, yeah, Mormon mafia, but this is starting to look a lot more like government mafia to me. MK Ultra was still freaking going on. It had just been supposedly ended in 1972. Okay. So this guy leaves BYU in 1975 and goes be the head of the child abuse school. He was born December 1935 in Greenville, Beaver County, but he spent much of his early life in Southern California. He graduated from BYU with a degree in child development and family relationships in 1969. He continued study at BYU for a master's degree in marriage and family therapy in 1972. He is currently writing his doctoral dissertation at BYU. So he's getting his PhD. So he went to undergrad at BYU, master's at BYU, PhD at BYU, taught at BYU. In addition to experience in individual, marital, family, and group therapy, Mr. Barton has held a variety of positions at business and education. He served as administrative assistant to the dean of the College of Family Living at BYU and also served as an instructor and teaching assistant. He has been awarded scholarships for his academic work and is currently a member of the National Council of Family Relations and American Association of Marriage and Family Counselors. He is an active member in the LDS Church. Duh. He and his wife have 8 kids. Now, this is 1 year later. That was 1976. 1 year later, we start getting hints of manual labor forced on these kids, which is one of the things that lawsuit, Aaron Ross's lawsuit, complained of. Cherry picking. Students from Provo Canyon School assisted in the orchard of local grower Cecil Ferguson Saturday. Left is Adam Mather from California. So they got the California kids picking their cherries at the Utah farms. Isn't that nice? You get some free child labor on your farm. You don't have to pay them. On the right is Mick Stockburger from Hawaii. Oh, really? Okay. So they're getting they're trafficking the kids from Hawaii too. Good. Nice. Sarcasm. Some 30 boys turned out to so-called help in the emergency. Did they turn out to help? Or are they doing child labor uncompensated and they can't say no? I don't see them tied off. What if they would have fallen and hurt themselves? Now remember, what does Provo Canyon need to keep operating? The support of the local town. Remember, they got run out of the first town they were in. Disagreements. So now, if anybody in the town needs help, we can just send our little boys over there to do the work. Then maybe the people in the town won't be so against us. In response, this is what it says in 1977 article. Provo Canyon school boys help harvest local cherries. In response to the article in Friday's Herald concerning the need for pickers in the local cherry orchard, community-wide efforts were aided by 15 boys from Provo Canyon School. The Herald reported that the federal government was restricting the movements of migrant farm workers, particularly, quote, this is a quote, illegal aliens. I don't think that's a word they say anymore, but that's from the 70s. This left some growers without their workforce upon which they depend to harvest their crops. Quote, we read in the paper that the local growers were in need of pickers. We always want to be of service to members of the community and feel that this was a need we could help fill, explained the school's administrative director, Jack Williams. 30 boys, I thought it was 15. 30 boys spent Saturday working in the orchards of Cecil Ferguson in Orem. Mr. Ferguson indicated that if he did not get his cherries picked in the next 3 days, they would be lost entirely. He asked if the boys could come help pick, at least for the next day or two. If he could have the same crew, he thought he could get all the crop in. He called it a dirty pool. Mr. Ferguson said that a grower south of Provo had come to his place during the night and lured away 6 migrant workers that were scheduled to work for him. The drama. He said this was an indication of how desperate farmers are to get their crops in. Humor and enthusiasm varied, as some of the boys' comments after a half day's picking indicate, I think it's right on, but it's messy. I never worked on a farm before. I like riding motorcycles better. I think it's the pits. That means I don't like it. I wish I didn't have to do this. Maybe I can work off some of this fat, one of them said. Now, Van Crandall, owner of a large orchard in Orem, said that the overall response of people in the community has been simply overwhelming. I don't know why we didn't think to appeal to the community sooner for free labor. Now, that same year, 1977, there were some mumblings afoot. There were complaints, but the school couldn't get shut down because of a so-called quirk in the law. Now, this goes all the way back to 1977. Even before that, it goes back to 1971 when they got ran out of that town. The director of the state, it says law's quirk restricts state control of Provo Canyon school practices. The director of the State Division of Family Services said Thursday that his agency has no control over disciplinary practices, including lie detector tests. Okay, so now the lie detector tests are starting to become a problem and it's coming out publicly. But the director of the State Division of Family Services said he had no control over that. A quirk of the law makes the school immune to our standards simply by the fact they call themselves a school. If they called themselves a shelter or something else, it would be a different matter. We could apply our standards. That's as to how the school treats the juveniles. This section is called polygraph testing. The 5-year-old school, owned and operated by Jack Williams from Orem, came under criticism recently from the American Civil Liberties Union, that's the ACLU, for its use of polygraph tests as a lie detector test on its 80 to 90 students ranging in age from 11 years old. So they call it the troubled teen industry. 11 ain't a teen. 12 ain't a teen. They're given 11-year-olds, they were in the 70s, polygraph tests. The ACLU also criticized the school's Spartan regimen, including an orientation phase, which The student was locked up and only was allowed to advance to the next stage if his attitude was deemed to have been changed. According to Mr. Williams, virtually all the students paying $1,100 a month in tuition are sent to the school by parents no longer able to control them. Few have ever been in serious trouble with the law. Mr. Wheeler, whose agency released a study of the institution in the 70s, said the state had the authority to inspect the school recently because the division had placed a juvenile at the institution under a juvenile court order. So even as far back as the 70s, the state itself was inserting kids by court order into this abuse institution. Contacted at the school, Assistant School Director Carr Farnsworth said he and Mr. Williams preferred to withhold comment on the state report and Mr. Wheeler's remarks. "We haven't even seen a copy of that report," said one of them. Mr. Wheeler's study notes use of the polygraph and harsh discipline at the school, but he recommends only that the standards be developed for facilities of this type, and an arm of the Department of Social Services needs to take responsibility for helping the facility become licensed and subject to supervision by one of the agencies that has responsibility for total care of the children who are out of their home. The report quotes extensively from an earlier report conducted by the New Jersey Division of Youth and Family Services. In the New Jersey report, said that the Utah study found certain conditions at the school are reminiscent of the antiquated reform schools: locked doors, barred windows, sleeping on mats, loss of mail, phone, and visitation privileges, and a procedure that is abhorrent, namely the administration of lie detector tests to the students. Mr. Wheeler, in a later conversation, said his agency does not condone or use the polygraph or other practices at the school, particularly in the orientation phase. Now, that escalated. So that was in August. The very next month, there was a lawsuit. So the ACLU sued Provo Canyon in 1978. Oh, excuse me. This was the next year. The ACLU sued Provo Canyon, hello, in the 70s for $1 million in the 70s. The American Civil Liberties Union filed a $1 million lawsuit charging the Provo Canyon School with brainwashing. Okay, I know. Look, put a 1 in the chat if you apologize for thinking I'm crazy for mentioning MK Ultra. Put a 1 in the chat if I was right. Put a 1 in the chat if I was right, because I've been talking about it. What did the literal American Civil Liberties Union sue for? That the kids were being brainwashed. Mind control. What is brainwashing? It's changing your brain to think something you never thought before. And cruel and unusual punishment of the boys at the school. The suit, filed in the U.S. District Court for Utah, also asks the court to prevent commitment of boys to the school by parents and court in other states through an interstate agreement on rehabilitation. So ACLU tried to get it to where people could not send their kids from out of state to this abhorrent and crazy place. The ACLU filed the class action on behalf of Timothy Milanis Jr. and Keith Rice, 2 boys who were involuntarily committed to the school. Milanis represents the class of boys sent to the school by parents or guardians. Rice is the class of boys committed by the courts. Multiple boys had been committed to this abusive school in the 70s, and the ACLU tried to do something about it. The courts, the juvenile courts, were subjecting them to go there. The suit alleges the school denies the boys constitutional rights of equal protection and due process. The boys are subjected to various forms of punishment, isolation, drug treatment, and lie detector tests aimed at completely controlling their thoughts. Where's my 1s? I'm putting a 1 because I know some of y'all are going to be too proud to put a 1. Y'all were thinking, oh, she's crazy. MK Ultra, please. Okay, well, look what the ACLU sued them for. ACLU don't bring cases it don't think it can win. They sued for brainwashing. Literally, and I quote, the boys are subjected to various forms of punishment, isolation, drug treatment, and lie detector tests aimed at completely controlling their thoughts and actions. These are training grounds for various use. They want to turn the kids into compliant, into super soldiers, into agents provocateur. They want to follow them around. They want to stalk them. When the kids say they're being followed around and stalked, they're called conspiracy theorists. They're further institutionalized. I am right. I am right. And for reasons I'll probably never be able to say publicly. But trust me, this is what's happening, in my opinion. Aimed at completely controlling their thoughts. Okay, so what was the messaging? This is in the 70s. What was the messaging from the school when they were putting out their little ribbon cutting and all that? Oh, we're helping him adjust. We're trying to help him adjust. Then it kind of starts moving on to boys who are not in control. Then it becomes social and behavioral and educational problems. But by the time 5 years after the school is finally allowed to be open for 5 straight years in a row, there's a ACLU lawsuit for $1 million in 1978 because the school is brainwashing kids, trying to control every one of their thoughts and every one of their actions. The school was having courts put kids in the school. They were taking professors from BYU and putting them as the head of psychology of the school. The reprogramming school, the brainwashing school. The controlling their thoughts, aka mind control. I ain't right, but all the time. It names Jack Williams in the lawsuit, owner and administrator and director, Robert Christ, owner and medical director of the school. Okay, I need to see how far up the chain was his grandpa a Nazi scientist, because that's where this is also heading. Project Paperclip, anyone? Project MK Ultra couldn't have happened without Project Paperclip. You know what Project Paperclip was? Where the Nazi war criminals weren't tried and killed. They were given new identities and sent over here to experiment on us. Well, not us. I wasn't born, but Americans. Now they have innocuous, non-Nazi sounding last names. They were experimenting on people in those camps, and then they came over here to experiment on our children in the child prison camps here. Do you see how this is like? MK Ultra couldn't have happened without Paperclip. So who are these motherfuckers? I'll find out. James Wheeler, Walter Talbot, John McNamara, who is the director and administrator of the Interstate Agreement on Juveniles Treatment. Okay, the suit, let's read further. The suit requests $1 million in damages from Williams and Christ, plus any additional damages the court fixes against the defendants. Some of the approximately 100 boys at the institution were sent there by their parents, but all of the boys sent there by court order came from other states. Interstate child trafficking by the courts. Y'all ready to have this conversation yet? Or are we not ready for that one yet? Are we ready to talk about interstate child trafficking by the courts? Or not ready yet? Still not ready for that? Okay. Fine. Because remember that lawsuit we saw from that mother who said that's exactly is what happened. Her kid was in Montana and he got sent by the court, but he was in a group home, and that group home had the court send him to Provo. Provo is where you get sent if you're bad at your other institutionalized program. So we ready to talk about the courts trafficking children across state lines? No, we're not, because it was going on in the 70s and the ACLU sued over it. Some of them were sent there by their parents, but all of them sent there by court order came from other states. Utah officials haven't asked courts to commit the boys to this school for about a year. A hearing aimed at getting Milonis and Rice out of the school was scheduled for 4 p.m. today before federal district judge Alden Anderson of Salt Lake City. School officials say their institution combines an educational program with therapy designed to help problem boys. The suit alleges, quote, the so-called therapy, in fact, consists of psychological brainwashing and thought control techniques reinforced by the constant threat of physical violence and other cruel and unusual punishment. And children were being sent here by the force of the state. They couldn't leave. They couldn't leave. The same year, 1 year earlier, look at this kid from Hawaii. You think the court might have forced him over there? How about this kid from California? Did they have a choice to pick cherries at someone else's community? Remember the first time the school got shut down? The first time ever that the school got shut down? In Provo, they lost their license before they ever even opened. Why? Because it doesn't help the community. These kids getting court ordered at the child prison in Provo doesn't help us. Oh, but what if it does? All of a sudden, the permit is approved. 5 years later, we got boys picking cherries out the tree from out of state. This ain't their community. But are they helping the community? Is maybe that one of the reasons? Look, if you approve our permit, we'll scratch your back. If you ever need our boys, they could come do labor. Because at that point, it was a boys' school. Let me know if I'm getting too close to the truth for anybody. Let me know. But the ACLU said, quote, the so-called therapy, in fact, consists of psychological brainwashing and thought control techniques reinforced by the constant threat of physical violence or other cruel and unusual punishment. The boys are allegedly subjected to such punishments as sitting or standing silently for long hours, solitary confinement in the P room, which lacks toilet facilities or furniture. Sometimes they're locked in there for more than 24 hours. The hair dance was mentioned as far back as 1978 in a $1 million ACLU lawsuit. The hair dance, in which counselors drag boys around by the hair. Maybe that's fookie slamming. The suit claims all mail sent by the boys or to the boys is censored, and they are not allowed to attend religious services until they earn the privilege. So their own religions were being held from them. The boys are forced to take a lie detector tests aimed at determining whether they have violated school rules or even thought about misconduct. They were taking lie detector tests. Children, 11-year-olds. Have you thought about breaking a rule? No. Lie. No food for you. Counselors who have no medical training administer psychological drugs to the boys, who therefore sometimes receive overdoses or the wrong medication, according to the ACLU. The only qualification for counselors at the school is they be at least 6 feet tall and weigh 200 pounds. Sheldon said this in his documentary. Not exactly that, but he said pretty much the only question they asked at the interview was, am I willing to put my hands on kids if I need to? If you say yes, you get the job. Thanks so much to Daybreak for the $4.99. True, absolutely. 1970s tracks with high demand religion families and a panic of losing kids to counterculture movement. Yep. And then there was another boost of this in the 90s. Y'all know that song by Edwin McCain? I think it's called Solitude. Tammy was a good friend. He was a brother of mine. Imaginary comic book superheroes, kids wasting time. We were prisoners of our youth. We were growing up strong till that day he was taken away for something he did wrong. All right. And then it's like the whole chorus is like this kid who's now an adult singing a song to his mom about locking him up in one of these places. But this song came out in the 90s. So you can kind of reverse engineer like it probably was about either Edwin McCain or one of his friends. He's now said it was about one of his friends. But then Elijah Blue Allman was put at the Hyde School in Bath, Maine. So it's not just Utah. And the schools themselves in the small towns, which Provo is not really necessarily a small town, but there's these small towns that these schools exist in. And then a lot of people who live in the town work at the school. They provide a lot of jobs. So it ends up being like a cult. Everybody knows what's going on in the school. People work there. People are delivering stuff there, doing services there. Thanks so much to Edie for the $4.99. A for abuser, B for beast, C for clown, D for demonic. Seriously, if true. Thanks so much to Player Profit for being a member for 4 months. I've been waiting for you to get into this. Thanks so much to Veronica for $4.99. Do any of these counselors have legit mental health credentials? Looks like in the 70s, no. They just had to be 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. Thanks so much to Edie for the $4.99. Farnsworth. I wonder if there's any relation to Turning Point's camera guy. I don't know. That is a very, very common, last name. So I wouldn't say necessarily. Thought Control, MK Ultra Who. I know what I know. Okay. So that was 1978. We have this one for 1979. We have another headline that says Provo Canyon School faces additional suit. Provo Canyon School, this is the next year after the $1 million ACLU suit. They received a letter Friday from the Special Education Office of the Utah State Board of Education that indicated the school is in compliance with federal special education requirements. Meanwhile, attorneys trying to shut down the private boys' school expanded a $1 million lawsuit to include 14 juveniles who were allegedly mistreated at the institution. Dr. Eugene Thorne, executive director of the Provo Canyon School at the time, received a letter Friday that certified the school meets all requirements under the law. The letter was signed by Dr. R. Elwood Pace, coordinator of special education programs, May Taylor, specialist of communication disorders and federal programs, and Dr. Benjamin Bruce, senior specialist of programs for the handicapped. The three individuals are part of the Special Education Office, Utah State Board of Education. They headed a 14-member program review team that evaluated the Provo Canyon School in September. The team submitted positive findings at Provo Canyon School. Administrators after the evaluation. Thorne claimed and it promised to formalize them after the school aligned itself with every requirement set forth in the public law. The school has done so, and the letter recognized this. Monday, lawyers filed a class action suit in the U.S. District Court for Utah, according to the UPI. The suit alleged the school confined 14 juveniles for unreasonable lengths of time, gave them mind-altering drugs, and denied special education to handicapped children or disabled. They use the R word, but that used to be like a medical term in the 70s. The American Civil Liberties Union filed the original suit September 1978, which alleged 2 students at Provo Canyon had been mistreated. Catherine Collard, an attorney for the plaintiffs, said the new filing is an attempt to bring parents and additional students into the action. Thorne advised the Herald Provo Canyon School faces trial under the suit in mid-January. He believes Utah State Board of Education findings during this evaluation will help the school's position. We believe we always had a strong position, although he's like, but I always think we had a strong position. The ACLU, on the other hand, believes defendants Thorne, Dr. Robert Christ, and Jack Williams, major stockholders in the school, have caused plaintiffs to suffer and be subjected to cruel and unusual punishment, anti-therapeutic and inhumane treatment, and denial of due process of the law. The ACLU asks the court to close the school or place it directly under state supervision. Collard said she will ask federal judge Bruce Jenkins to consolidate the 2 suits. If that motion is denied, he will pursue the action separately. Okay, so they sued for brainwashing. Okay, And that's 1979. So let's move forward one more year, 1980. We start getting people who, the school opened in its first original form, 1971. Then it got kicked out of town. Opened again at the very end of 1973. So by 1980, there's a good amount of adults who now are adults who graduated from there. And they're speaking out already. This is like the first crop of students. Alumnus says Provo Canyon School is brutal. This is 1980. A former Provo Canyon School student claims he was brutalized by administrators and staff members because he could not overcome his disability. Patrick King of Georgetown, Texas, was enrolled in the Utah school in 1978 after his mother read an advertisement claiming the facility changes boys into men. King had been injured in an accident in the late 60s. He had not fully recovered. King, so like 10 years. He testified Tuesday he was drugged, forced to sleep on the floor, locked in solitary confinement with no furniture and no toilet, had his hair pulled, and was dragged around on the floor by counselors. He was witness for the ACLU's lawsuit, and the ACLU filed suit on behalf of two other students who have also left the school. This guy says that he was able to write only one letter home because he was too drugged up. He said, I could not walk and I would stutter when I talked. Chemical lobotomy. And if they keep him in there too long, it's irreversible. Mrs. Lisa King, the boy's mother, said she decided to remove her son from the school after she was notified that he was being disruptive and not fitting in. She said, I started crying when I went to pick my son up. He couldn't walk. He couldn't sit up. He looked so completely disabled. I was horrified because we had left an upright, happy boy. She said her son also had a bald spot on his head where his hair was apparently pulled out. There was blood on his clothes. His voice was so nasally, but he finally got it out. And what he was able to finally say, quote, they are so mean. Now, why did he get sent there? Because he had a behavioral issue? He was just physically disabled. I mean, not to say just, like to diminish it, but I'm just saying, like, what in the hell does that have to do with what the school is advertised for? Behavioral, social, educational problems. A kid, a child who was injured in an accident, never fully recovered, gets sent over there. He's upright, walking and talking when he gets sent there. And when his mama picked him up, he had blood on his clothes and a bald spot and couldn't talk. Thanks so much, Jessica, for the $20 super chat. And we're still in 1980. So every time, you're going to notice a pattern. Every time the school gets some negative publicity, there's some local doctor or some local parent who comes to the school's defense. We've already seen it happening one time. Remember the people who said, our son was hurt in a wheelchair? It's probably fucking Eamon McNuff in a trench coat or something. See, look, well, it's a pattern. So my brain works in patterns. February 11, 1973, school revokes, the planning board, zoning board, whatever it is, revokes the school's permit. Okay. February 11, 1973. February 25th, here's a parent. Oh, we love the school. Give it a chance. Okay. So fast forward 7 years. Now we're in 1980. The ACLU filed their lawsuit 1978. They file a lawsuit. They re-up the lawsuit in 1979, the very end of the year. Then you get students speaking out, former students, that they had bald spots and stuff when they left the school. April 2nd, 1980. How long did it take for them to find some local dupe to make a counter statement? I mean, PR runs in these people's bloods. This is the 80s. 1980, just turned the 80s. Okay, so here's the alumni. Oh, yeah, my mom picked me up. I had a bald spot. That was April 2nd. Look what was published in the same newspaper, April 11th. Title: Doctor praises Provo Canyon as being outstanding. Don't listen to that stupid disabled boy. Ha, ha, ha. I'm a doctor. Listen to me. You can't trust him anyway. Listen to me. The article says an investigator for the Utah School Board says the Provo Canyon Boys School has an outstanding program for treating emotionally disturbed youth. Dr. May Taylor told a federal jury Thursday the private reform school had an excellent diagnostic program, a progressive administration, and a commendable teaching staff. She praised the physical setting of the school. She said it was a home like atmosphere. She also said it had an exemplary medical staff and health services. Okay, what did the student literally just say? The former alum? He was drugged out of his mind. He couldn't talk. He was stuttering when he tried to talk. He couldn't even write a letter home to his mom. He had a bald spot on his head, and now the doctor is saying, no, 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 this is a great program. Dr. Taylor testified as a witness for the school in a $1 million lawsuit against the school brought by the ACLU. The ACLU is seeking damages and a court order to shut the school down for mistreating students. In a nutshell, said Dr. Taylor, the team felt the program at the school was outstanding. It was providing a service to severely handicapped children with emotional and behavioral problems. Really? Severely handicapped? This is the first time I'm ever hearing this in any of the 7 years of press releases about this school that we've heard. She said the investigating team found some areas where the school didn't comply with federal regulations governing institutions, but she said they were mostly in the area of record keeping and not major compliance problems. She admitted on cross-examination that not one of the teachers on the staff was certified to teach behaviorally or emotionally handicapped students as required by state law. Again, behaviorally and emotionally handicapped students are now, I mean, this is terminology that's now antiquated and outdated. But at the time, this was like a medical terminology. Um, the woman said quote, emotionally handicapped students and quote, behaviorally handicapped students were protected under state law. So it was a protected group. And the school was not hiring teachers who were trained at all or certified to teach these kids. The woman said investigators found the teachers were all certified in areas they were teaching, like math or social science, but not as behavior specialists. She said all the teachers were enrolled in a program sponsored by BYU to obtain the required behavioral certificate, and state team found that commendable. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? All the teachers, every teacher, all of them were enrolled in a program sponsored by BYU. Why the fuck would BYU be sponsoring a program to send teachers at a private school for emotionally, quote, behaviorally disturbed youth who are largely not from Utah? Is BYU just handing out money to all these private reform schools for what? I thought the way that the BYU money funnel worked was the money funnels back to them. So why is BYU sponsoring a program for all of the teachers at Provo Canyon to get the required health certificate, required behavioral certificate? And furthermore, why does the state school board lady find that to be commendable? I thought we were separating church and state. Under questioning by ACLU lawyer, The state official also admitted the state team had not investigated conditions at the school in 1978 when the lawsuit was filed. They had deliberately not examined specific charges leveled in the lawsuit. They on purpose put their head in the sand. The state has been covering up. For this school that the ACLU accused of brainwashing and mind control techniques, controlling every thought, quote, controlling every thought was the aim. Every thought. That is mind control. They gave these 11-year-olds lie detector tests and asked them if they even thought about breaking a rule at school. We all know those aren't reliable. The ACLU claimed the students were abused and mistreated and deprived of basic constitutional rights, such as the right to attend religious services and receive uncensored mail. The judge, Bruce Jenkins, refused to admit testimony Thursday about the allegedly violent nature of one of the students who brought the suit. Jenkins, the judge, excused the jury and then listened to Guy Toombs, an instructor at Utah Technical College, tell how Kenneth Rice, one of the former Provo Canyon students, threatened him with a 2x4 and threw a tape measure in his face, and that caused a severe cut. The incidents allegedly occurred after he left the Provo Canyon school. I told y'all this is what they want to do. They want to F people up so that they continue to be institutionalizable. They want it. The program is working as intended. If you get out of one of these Provo Canyons and you go start acting a fool, the program worked. That's the plan. That's the goal. That's the purpose. People have known, doctors, psychiatrists have known since about 70 years ago what this type of torture does to someone. It almost never makes them better, more adjusted. It almost always fucks them up. Now, add on top of that, you're drugging them while you do it, and they're a child. The program's working as intended. But instead of the school taking responsibility for creating a violent monster, they say, oh, he was always like that. Okay, well, then your school sucks because you didn't fix him, right? Attorneys representing the school wanted to present testimony to discredit Rice as a witness, but the judge said it was not relevant because it occurred later than the incidents in the suit and at a different location. The victim, the child victim, who was now an adult, testified during the trial that he and other students were brutalized at the school. A mother who says her son was once a drug user and dealer was transformed into a hardworking college student by the Provo Canyon School. This was Marilyn Anderson from Livermore, California. She painted a picture of the school, which contrasted sharply with the accusations made in the suit. She said her son Mike received no more abuse at that school than he got at home. Okay, so abusive parents sending their kids there, they're not going to have a problem with it. They're like, yeah, you beat him instead of me. Before she sent him to the school, Mike grew marijuana in the backyard of their home and used and sold the drug. Mrs. Anderson said Mike once beat up his father when the dad wouldn't let him dry his marijuana in the microwave oven. She said he also drank liquor. Ms. Anderson said Mike's stay in the Provo Canyon School turned his life around and saved their family. He's now a student at the University of Utah. Eugene Gibbons of Orem and a Brigham Young University professor endorsed as therapeutic many of the practices at the Provo Canyon School. So when the school Provo Canyon was sued in the 70s for $1 million by the ACLU, the BYU director of social work testified in the defense of Provo Canyon School. Testified for Provo Canyon School. Eugene Gibbons, BYU professor and director of the social work program. He was called by Provo Canyon School as a witness. Some practices of the school are helpful, such as the time out sessions and orientation unit, because they teach boys to earn rewards, such as being allowed outside. Right. This is a reward. It's not a right. You don't have a right to be outside, animal. You are a lab rat now and you have to be inside. Most young men would do well there, particularly the type of young men who went to Provo Canyon School. Oh, you mean people that just got in an accident and never got better? The school's program would not be appropriate for all young men. Gibbons said lie detector tests and monitoring mail were considered tools for governing boys at schools of this type, although he did not personally agree with the lie detector tests. Mail monitoring is sometimes necessary to prevent transfer of contraband, but it should not be read over. Well, that they were reading over it. Okay. So, April 3rd. So now we get this article, April 3rd, 1980. State will monitor Provo Reform School. The Utah Board of Education has agreed to monitor private institutions like Provo Canyon School and block government funding to facilities that fail to meet the standards. The agreement came in a consent decree signed by State School Superintendent Walter Talbot. The document settled part of a $1 million federal suit filed against the school by students who claimed they were mistreated in the institution. Regardless of what happens with the rest of the case, we won our major point that the Provo Canyon School and institutions like it must be regulated by the state school board. So this, if you've been following along, remember the weird quirk? This was in 1977. This weird quirk makes it where the state school board's like, we can't stop them from giving lie detector tests. Remember the first time they tried to get that permit and it got taken away? One of the reasons was because the school isn't subject to controls and regulations of the state. That was the first problem that they had. Look, first, when their permit got revoked before they ever opened in Provo. So this has been a long time coming. I mean, it did take about 7 years from the first time we saw it being a problem to following it through. But now they are going to be subject, as of April 1980, to oversight by the state school board. Ms. Collard, one of the lawyers on the team of attorneys representing Provo Canyon. Oh, students, excuse me. Okay, so the ACLU lawyer. Okay. Okay. So, in addition to the state regulation of private reform schools, the suit asks that Provo Canyon be closed because of alleged violations of civil rights and physical abuse of students. Testimony on the suit continued Wednesday before Federal District Judge Bruce Jenkins. Ms. Collard said the provisions of the consent decree are excellent and should prevent the type of abuse that her clients claim took place at the school, but she said that she still wants the Utah County facility shut down. She said, I do think the people who are running the Provo Canyon schools should not be allowed to run anything. They're not running it to help the boys who attend those schools. Their motivations are purely commercial. Under the consent decree, the board is absolutely prohibited from giving any state funds or passing on any federal funds to the Provo Canyon school until educational and treatment guidelines are adopted. The decree also required that schools must meet those standards before they can get any public money. In addition, no new students who are entitled to government aid can be placed in the school until the board certifies the institution complies with certain minimum standards. The school would be unable to survive without federal funds. Hello? The school would be unable to survive without federal funds. Federal funds. Tax dollars. Most students at the school are placed there because they suffer from behavior problems and are considered, quote, troublemakers, and nearly all of them receive federal aid for handicapped students. This is chattel trafficking of children interstate, in my opinion. Under federal law, the definition of handicap includes emotional and behavioral problems. When the suit was filed in 1978, Provo Canyon Director Jack Williams and other officials of the institution said they would welcome state regulation. They said such monitoring would assure the public that Provo Canyon students are not mistreated. The suit against the school claims students were subjected to long periods in isolation and to violent punishment. It also alleges they were given unnecessary drugs and lie detector tests. And it claims their mail was censored and they were prevented from telling their parents or lawyers about the conditions at the school. The consent decree includes court orders directing the board to ensure that Provo Canyon and schools like it provide a safe, humane, caring residential environment. They have to provide full civil and political rights and liberties. They have to give students free and open access to their parents and attorneys and reasonable access to others. They have to keep students in the least restrictive environment as possible in these reform institutions. They have to allow state officials who monitor the schools to interview students outside the presence of any and all institutional personnel, employees, agents, or attorneys. The document prohibits corporal punishment unless the punishment would be legal in public schools under state and federal law, and it prevents school employees from giving drugs to students unless the medication is prescribed by a doctor. They were giving them drugs that weren't even prescribed. Okay, so then that was in April. So in August, I guess their period of observation is over and we get this one. Provo Canyon School issued final orders, August 27, 1980. Federal Judge Bruce Jenkins says Provo Canyon School can continue treating delinquent boys, but only under close state supervision and only if it quits violating the civil rights of its students. The judge Tuesday issued a memorandum opinion and final orders in a lawsuit brought against the private reformatory by the ACLU of several students. Some boys perform successfully at the school and are probably better off for having been there, the judge said. Even the judge was like, yeah, I kind of like Provo Canyon for some of these people. For other boys, the school is inappropriate, and the program could and did lead to tragic results. The judge ruled verbally from the bench May 5th that the school had violated constitutional rights of its students by censoring their mail, making them take lie detector tests, and using excessive force and isolation treatment as punishment. The judge ordered the school to end those practices and directed the state to monitor the institution. The judge formalized those orders Tuesday and also noted that no damages would be awarded in the case, but the ACLU lawyers will be allowed to collect their attorney's fees. So the students and the actual victims don't get compensated, but the lawyers always do. That's another pattern. The judge, so the two students bringing the suit, Tim and Kenneth, had sought $1 million in damages, but a jury ruled they were not entitled to monetary damages for the abuse they went through. The judge decided the constitutional and legal issues separate from the jury. He found a number of practices at the school did violate the constitutional rights of students and violated the federal law governing operations of these schools that got special ed funding. In his memorandum, the judge said the institution was clearly bound by federal laws because there are substantial numbers of boys at the school whose tuition was funded by federal special education programs. For that reason, the state, which oversees federal education programs in Utah, was required to supervise and inspect Provo Canyon School, said the judge. Prior to the lawsuit, the state had not been monitoring Provo Canyon School. The judge said the school staff made excessive and inappropriate use of isolation and physical force. He was particularly critical of the hair dance, in which staff members grabbed unruly students by the hair and jerked them around the room. The judge said the school rules permitted use of the hair dance only to control violent students who might hurt themselves or others, but he said it still was frequently used as punishment rather than simply for immediate control. School officials claimed they used force in isolation rooms only when students were out of control, but the judge said out of control was interpreted to mean anything from minor physical violence to a boy in a tiny infraction of school rules. The judge said the evidence showed there were instances where the school employees themselves had lost control when students disobeyed rules. Quote, this is from the judge, "This was particularly true where the evidence showed that defendant Jack Williams, a director, co-owner, and co-founder of the school, was out of control. On occasion." The judge called the use of mail censorship and lie detector tests gross overreactions to security and treatment needs and unreasonable infringements on basic human and constitutional rights that are possessed by all, even convicted adult felons. This judge said students were punished not only for past actions revealed by lie detector tests, but for things they had only just thought about doing, such as the judge said such use of the lie detector test made it an instrument of terror rather than therapy. Although such thought control may be very effective in changing behavior, so are a number of brainwashing techniques that the Constitution and certainly the special education laws won't permit. Woo! The judge found that the school was using brainwashing and thought control techniques. It wasn't just an allegation. It's a fact that the judge found. Quote, although such thought control may be very effective in changing behavior, so are a number of brainwashing techniques that the Constitution and certainly the special education laws won't permit. The censorship of mail went beyond attempts to shield the boys from bad influences. Therapists forced the students to rewrite letters that contained any criticism of the school or any negative thinking. One wonders why an institution that seems to be as proud of its programs as the Provo Canyon School is would go to such great lengths to avoid critical comment, said the judge. So that was 1980. And guess what happened also in 1980? That was August, so earlier in the year. They got another doctor. Okay, so this is April 9th. The one we just read over here, April 11th, a doctor praises the school. Okay. Doctor, this is a totally different newspaper article in a different day. Doctor says Utah needs the Provo Canyon School. Treatment at Provo Canyon Boys School is similar in many ways to Primary Children's Hospital. The chairman of the hospital's Department of Child Psychiatry said Tuesday. So again, I'm thinking paperclip. I'm thinking MK Ultra. This guy's probably a child predator too. I mean, this is just how it ends up working out. They got the head of the child psychiatry department from the hospital vouching for the abusive Provo Canyon School that was violating students' rights. Dr. Paul Whitehead testified in U.S. court for the civil suit against the school. Two former residents at the school, represented by the ACLU, filed the suit seeking damages. The doctor said the program of the school is designed to help children who have unsocialized behavior and who have difficulty following rules and regulations of society. It's a brainwashing, mind control school. He said the school classifies students at 4 levels, much as Primary Children's Hospital does in the child psychiatry department. Okay, so they're using mind control techniques over there too. That's what I'm hearing. He also said that at the hospital, children entering at the 0 level must stay in their rooms. Children entering the Provo Canyon School have been locked in the orientation unit and must stand, work, or sit for so many hours before progressing. The level system at Provo Canyon is somewhat along the lines of Primary Children's. They have 4 levels. The use of levels is well recognized. The basis is to let the kids know where they stand to motivate them toward more appropriate behavior. So they've been using these abusive war criminal techniques on children in many settings in many hospitals for many years and many decades. And the doctors are so used to it now that they're just like, yeah, that's normal. The doctor said keeping boys in the orientation unit, which is the gulag, for 2 months without outdoor recreation would be about the limit, but noted that the school has a fine gym where the boys are taken. He also said he knows no boys he ordered sent there restricted from recreation. Now, this part is crazy. It says boys hedonistic. The type of boys referred to. Okay, so this is where you reverse the victim and the offender. You make it, we're not abusing children. These children are hedonistic. They're demon possessed. We got to help them. It's not us. Oh no, we have to do it. We're the victims of these children. They're not the victims of us. They are not fitted to be in outpatient therapy or hospitalized. They lack control. They have low frustration tolerance. They are hedonistic in pursuit of pleasure. They strongly are committed to meeting their own needs and disregarding the rights of others. The doctor said deprivation of these boys' personal property by the school is helpful. He said not allowing them to attend religious services is beyond what the hospital would allow to do. But the boys he sent there had no interest in religion. He said the hair dance, the practice of making one kid out a bald spot from it, is not used at the hospital. But such a practice is reasonable for a boy who is out of control. But they never define what out of control means. Now, what about the gulag? He said, well, the Primary Children's Hospital does have a quiet room, perhaps similar to the isolation of the windowless, toiletless room that we, let the kids get locked up in at Provo, P room, where children are taken to help them gain control. He said the room at Primary Children's is used as an alternative to tying the kids up or sitting on them, which we feel is inhumane. Dr. Whitehead said a lie detector can be useful to boys who might typically be sent to Provo Canyon. He said, I think we all have to realize we're dealing with a special group of lying ass little bitches. A special group of kids. He said he understands the lie detector may have been overused. So, yeah, they're allowed to just carry right on. So, here's 6 years later. We have more forced labor. Provo Canyon School fills sandbags. Students from Provo Canyon School were working as volunteers. But are they really allowed to say no? No. So this is child slave labor. That's what this is. Working as, quote, volunteers, slaves, by filling sandbags this past week in anticipation of a possible future flooding. They didn't spell flooding right. Maybe one of them kids could have helped y'all spell your article. For Provo residents living along the river bottoms. Boys from the local private residential school are prepared to work, filling bags until the flooding danger passes. We are concerned about the safety of our neighbors along the river bottom and have volunteered our staff and students in filling sandbags residents can use to protect their property. Please remember, when the school was denied its permit at the very beginning, a couple of the there was 4 reasons for it. One of them was there's no help that this school is going to bring into our community. It doesn't help our community. Doesn't help our zone for you to be over here doing it. Well, unless it does, because you have free child labor. They were picking cherries. Now they're filling sandbags. All the while they can't say no. We have another therapist joining the staff. Look at this child abuser. Therapist. Gary Byer. It was recently. So this is 1986. This is after the school was purchased by a new buyer. It's like every time they get in trouble, just someone else buys the school so that they can now say, oh, that wasn't us. That was the different owner. The school currently employs 13 therapists. This is 1986 who work on an individual basis with students and correcting conduct disorders. It used to be a school for the severely handicapped. Then it was behavioral. Then it was emotional. Then it was anybody and everybody. He used to work at the Utah County literal youth prison, youth detention facility in Provo. At Provo Canyon, he works with about 18 adults and individuals for individual and family therapy basis. Guess where he went to school? Educated at Project Paperclip Central, BYU. He received a bachelor's of science in psychology and a master's in education and counseling. He's certified as an adult probation and parole officer and a corrections counselor. Institutionalization. Get them institutionalized as young as you can. Get them brainwashed, get them scared of their own shadow, give them PTSD. So when you say jump, they say how high without even thinking. This sick freak went from a child prison to a child prison. I'm supposed to be clapping for him. Gary Byer, he looks possessed with demons. Probably on the Council of Elders. Is that it? Yeah, that was it. I got up to 1986. It's too much. It's too much. I'm just reading some of y'all's comments. Thanks so much to Monica Hall for the 5 gifted show memberships. Thank you. Trauma causes us to block so much out, but when another abusive survivor is shocked, that makes me. Demon Circus from Hell. Seriously. Thanks to Ophelia for the 1 gifted live show membership. Thank you. Jordan wanted to say thank you to you personally. Where is he? He in here? Straight Out of BS podcast? Yeah, no, I'm not ignoring anyone. I'm in the middle of a live. I don't normally like keep up with the comments too much. You know, he's been on here before, or at least my other channel. Um Shout out to him, Straight Out of BS podcast. He was on Sheldon's live the other day. Or was it a pre-record? I think it was live. Oh, okay. Oh, shout out to the Lust raid. I didn't know that happened. Um Whoever is saying, okay, something that y'all need to know. I have 5, 6, 7, 10, whatever it is, mods. And people definitely do be getting blocked in this chat. I don't have control over everybody that gets blocked. I don't agree, truly. Like, if I see a reason why somebody blocks somebody, I'll unblock them or whatever. Sometimes I don't agree with every time somebody blocks, but so first of all, like, Devo structure, I don't know who the fuck you think you're talking to, because I know it for sure damn sure ain't me. You will never ever get anything productive or conducive to what you want me to do by making belligerent demands. Let me just read y'all quote. I find it really interesting you claim to care about this subject, yet you are blocking the actual survivors from commenting on your page. Could it be that all of this is performative? I would invite you to performatively suck my motherfucking beep. Devo structure. If you survived trauma before, I guarantee you're going to have a really hard fucking time dealing with me. Okay? Do not talk to me like that. It will get you exactly nowhere. It'll actually put you back from where you started. Because I could have been your ally, but you're on the road to making me your opponent. Do not do it again. Second of all, yeah, I do care about this issue, and your little bitchy ass comment is not going to change it. Now, if you want to ask something nicely, go ahead and try. I know, I see people saying he's blocked, but I would never block him. So clearly another mod blocked him if he's blocked, and I'll unblock him. Like, that's how easy it could have been. But having, these other little fucking idiots talking about, bitch, there is probably not anyone online who has sacrificed more for people's rights in this way than me. I am absolutely isolated. I get abused by the likes of people like the likes of you every fucking day. I guess it's all performative then, because I'm not doing what the fuck your loser ass wants me to do. And that's why people do get blocked. I tell my mods to block people for any and every reason. Now, sometimes I've seen my mods block people. I would not block them. Sometimes my mods block first, ask questions later. Sometimes I block first, ask questions later. But I am very aware of who Straight Out of BS podcast is. I had no idea he was blocked. If he is blocked, I haven't even been to the back end. But you get people like this fucking loser. Hold on, what was their name again? Trying to tell me what in the fuck to do? You caught me on the right day at the wrong time, motherfucker. Could it be that all of this is performative? Yeah, it's fucking performative. That I've been taking up for people in their rights so hard that I got sued. And I wouldn't just take my videos down and settle. So I don't have a baby. I haven't had a wedding. There's shit in my house broken I can't fix. Yeah, it's fucking performative. Suck my blank. Show you my bank account. I'll show you my student loans that I could have paid off in about 2 years if I would have kept that job that was trying to control my speech. Performative? Bitch, I've put my money where my motherfucking mouth is for about 6 years. My entire life is on a different path because I have put my life, my soul, my body, my mind on the line for other people's shit. The actual victims? Yeah. The ones I had absolutely no duty or responsibility to defend. The ones I could have ignored. I've suffered financial losses. I've suffered sleepless nights. I've suffered demonetization. I've suffered shadow banning. I've suffered losing friends. Sure, it's performative. Devo structure. Devo structure said something else I want to address. She blocked somebody else. That is very important to the movement. Bitch, I am the movement. I don't join people's movements no more. The movement is me. The first time I talked about the troubled teen industry, I talked about Turnabout Ranch. Dr. Phil sending Bad Behavior to Turnabout Ranch. There were some people that freaked out in my comment section trying to tell me what to do. They contacted some of my mods and they said, oh, tell BJ we don't want her to talk about this yet anymore because so-and-so's about to file a fuck. Shut the fuck up. I'm not asking anybody's permission to make a video. I don't work for y'all. I didn't come over here to be in your community. Devo structure. I don't want to be in your community, freak. Don't come back over here. Actually, at all. That's not how you get anywhere with me. And I just want to be very clear. I will not be told what to do. I will not. I have a histamine response to being told what to do. If you try to tell me what to do, I might do the opposite. You almost got a Straight Outta BS podcast blocked forever just because I don't like you. But I wouldn't do that because I like him and I know him. Well, I know of him. It's really not that hard, you ungrateful imbecile, to just say, hey, wow, BJ's taking her time to even add a little bit of, shine a little bit of light on this issue I care so much about. No. You got to come in here and tell me I'm doing the movement and fuck you. Thank you so much, Kitty A Key, for the $2 super chat. I don't work for y'all. Thank you, Kay, on YouTube for the $2 super chat. Girl, you are the best. I will not be told what to do. If I want to make a live chat where nobody can comment, I might. And I don't want to hear nobody's mouth about it. Love you, Minute K. Bye.